To our wonderful listeners, watchers, and readers, welcome to Israel's North, Looking Forward, a special virtual conference presented by the Jerusalem Post. I'm Tamar Uriel Beery, and I'll be your host for this broadcast. After months of intense conflicts along our northern border, we gather today to focus on revival and reconstruction. The communities of Israel's north, from Haifa's beaches to the sweet Sea of Galilee to the picturesque Golan Heights, have long represented the vibrant mosaic of Israeli society. From bustling tech hubs to pastoral farming communities, from ancient historical sites to modern industrial centers, today we're bringing together local leaders, economic experts, and community representatives to chart a path forward. We'll explore plans for rebuilding infrastructures, strengthening security frameworks, revitalizing tourism, and most importantly, supporting the thousands of residents eager to return home and rebuild their lives. Over the next couple of hours, our distinguished speakers will address the immediate challenges facing Israel's northern region and present innovative solutions for long-term development and growth. We'll examine successful models of community resilience, discuss economic incentives for business recovery, and explore new opportunities that can emerge from this period of rebuilding. Thank you for joining us in this crucial conversation about securing a thriving future for Israel's northern frontier. Our first speaker today brings decades of municipal leadership experience and a deep understanding of local governance. Please welcome Chaim Bibas, chairman of the Federation of Local Authorities in Israel and mayor of Modi'in Maccabim Reut. חיים ביבס, יושב ראש מרכז השלטון המקומי וראש העיר מודיעין מכבים רעות. תודה רבה שהצטרפת אלינו היום.
בבקשה.
מהם האתגרים בעיניך הגדולים ביותר שעמדו בפני הרשויות המקומיות בצפון במהלך המלחמה, במיוחד מבחינת פינוי ותמיכה בתושבים שנשארו מאחור?
האתגר הגדול היה קודם כל אתגר הביטחון. ב-7 באוקטובר קמנו לבוקר שהיינו בטוחים שהפריצה תבוא גם מצפון, אז זה צד אחד. וצד שני זה הנושא של הפינוי, שלא ספק היה מאתגר מאוד. בחלקים הוא עבד מצוין, בחלקים הוא עבד פחות טוב. ואני חושב שאנחנו היינו שם מהרגע הראשון כדי לסייע ולעזור. בסוף השלטון המקומי בא גם בדרום וגם בצפון, וסייע מיידית במשאבים כדי שהרשויות יוכלו לפנות את האנשים, אוטובוסים, הרבה מאוד ציוד, כדי להרים את הראש מעל המים. צריך להבין שלמדינת ישראל, הממשלה, לוקח בגלל הבירוקרטיה סדר גודל של חודש וחצי כדי להיכנס לאירוע מבחינה תקציבית, משאבית, ולכן היינו הראשונים להיות שם, והאתגרים הגדולים היו גם הפינוי, וגם בסוף צריך להבין שאנשים יבדו את הביטחון שלהם, את החוסן שלהם. ב7 באוקטובר קמנו לבוקר, שלא ידענו האם הרעה תיפתח גם מהצפון, גם מזרח, ולכן נערכנו מבעוד מועד כדי להיות שם.
וזה בעיניך עזר להתכונן כשהמתקפות של חיזבאללה אחר כך הצטברו, נהיו הרבה יותר עוצמתיות?
ללא ספק, תראי, בסופו של דבר אני חושב שכל הסיוע הנדרש, בשלב הראשון אנחנו, כדי להיכנס פנימה, לסייע, לכיתות כוננות, לרשויות, לפנות את התושבים, ואחר כך כמובן הסיוע שבא מהממשלה, הסיוע שבא מהקהילות היהודיות בעולם, בעיקר מצפון אמריקה, שלא ספק נתן את האפשרות להצטייד בכיתות כוננות, באמצעים, בהרבה מאוד ציוד, שהיכולת שלנו הייתה להביא אותו מיידית כמעט והייתה בלתי אפשרית. אני חושב שהנושאים האלה ביחד, שהתחברו ביחד, יצרו איזושהי חזרה בטוחה יותר, כדי לנהל את האירוע וגם להתמודד עם האיום מצפון של החיזבאללה.
אז בדיוק, אז עכשיו דברים קצת נרגעו, אנחנו כאילו לקראת סוף ה-60 יום הפסקת אש מול חיזבאללה. מה עם סדרי העדיפויות המיידיים של הרשויות המקומיות לשיקום, גם מבחינת שיקום פיזי, אבל גם מבחינת אמון הציבור וטיפול בחששות שהם חווים לגבי החזרה לבתים? הרי הם מפחדים שדברים יחזרו למה שהם היו.
תראי, בסוף הדבר הראשון הוא קודם כל המרכיב הביטחוני. המרכיב הביטחוני זה אומר מרכיבי הביטחון, הביטחון שצה"ל ייתן לתושבים לחזור, והיכולת לטפל בדברים באפס סובלנות. אין יותר את מה שהיה עד היום. אין מצב שבו יורים רקטה ולא מגיבים בחוסר פרופורציה. אותו דבר גם בדרום. אין כזה דבר ששמים אוהל והצבא לא מפרק אותו באותו רגע. כל הדברים האלה צריכים לקבל טיפול מיידית. וצד אחד, אני קורא לזה קודם כל המעטפת של מרכיבי הביטחון. אחר כך זה כמובן כל נושא הכלכלה, הסיוע, המשאבים, תוכנית הצפון, המימוש שלה, ההתחדשות, הטיפול במבנים הרוסים, תשתיות, כמובן, הנושא של בתי ספר, חינוך, מערכת החינוך, כי בסוף השנה הזאת שנה עבודה.
כן.
ובראשון לספטמבר הבא צריך להיות מוכנים כבר מהיום להתכונן, כדי שהראשון לספטמבר הבא גם נוכל להיות שם כדי להחזיר את האנשים, וכמובן, מימוש כלל התוכניות, זה אומר יותר השקעה כדי להחזיר את התיירות, שזה הבסיס, העוגן המרכזי של הפעילות בצפון. כל אלה ביחד הם המרכיבים הראשונים שעליהם צריך לטפל, כדי שהציבור שגר בצפון ייתן את האמון במערכת ולהתחיל לחזור חזרה.
יש איזושהי תוכנית של שיפור תשתיות? כי אני הבנתי שכאילו למדנו לקח, אנחנו נתכונן, נתאים את עצמנו בהתאם, אבל מבחינת תשתיות, יש איזושהי הכנה שנדרשת או שנעשית כבר עכשיו כדי להבטיח לתושבי הצפון איזושהי, לא התאוששות, אבל גם לשגשג בעתיד? כן,
ישבתי שבוע שעבר עם השר אלקין, שהוא בעצם אחראי על הפיתוח והניהול של פרויקט הצפון והדרום, ובסוף יש תקציב ויש תוכנית. יש תוכנית של הרשויות שצמודות גדר, שכבר יצאה לפועל, בחלקה תצא, ויש את התוכנית של המעטפת של יישובי הצפון, שבסוף גם צריכה לקבל ביטוי. וכדי שהיא תקבל ביטוי, צריך שיהיה תוכנית הסכמה מלאה, ותוכנית שהיא 5 שנתית, שבסוף יוצאת מיידית לדרך, מבחינת השיקום, מבחינת העבודה, מבחינת כל הדברים. ולכן אני מחלק את זה לשניים. מה שצמוד גדר יצא לדרך, מבחינת שיפוצים, בנייה, השלמת תשתיות, כל מה שנדרש. כמובן, החיזוק הכלכלי, התיירותי, התעסוקתי, צריך לקבל משנה תוקף, ושאר היישובים גם צריכים, כדי שנוכל להחזיר את הצפון למסלול שלו ולהרים אותו. יש פה הזדמנות שלא תחזור על עצמה, לקחת את הצפון ולהפוך אותו לפנינה, לאטרקציה האמיתית של מדינת ישראל. יש לו את כל התכונות שבסוף יכולות להביא אותו לשם. בסוף צריך את המשאבים, תוכנית, יישום תוכנית, ואנחנו נותנים את הדחיפה מול הרשויות ומול גורמי הממשלה. כאשר אני אומר, תעבדו דרך הרשויות המקומיות. הרבה מאוד מהדברים אפשר לממש דרך הרשויות, מה שלא אנחנו נסייע להם, ומה שגם הם וגם אנחנו לא יכולים, לא ספק הממשלה תצטרך להיכנס פנימה.
הרשויות המקומיות בהחלט היו הקו הראשון, like the first line of defense, שהערים והמושבים בצפון היה להם מבחינת הגנה, כי הרי, כמו שאמרת, זמן תגובה של משהו יותר גדול, צה"ל, מדיני, משהו כזה, זה לוקח הרבה יותר זמן. איך אתה מדמיין נגיד לעתיד הרחוק, או אפילו, לא יודעת, לחודש הקרוב, איך מחזקים לא רק את תחושת הביטחון, אבל גם החוסן של אזור הצפון, כולל הכשרה וציוד לכיתות כוננות? אז
כמה דברים. אחד, זה מרכיבי ביטחון, זה אומר קודם כל על הגדר, צבא, עם כל מה שנדרש, עם כל האמצעים, כל הטכנולוגיה, וצבא בסוף אמיתי. זה אומר טנקים, חיילים, כל מה שצריך כדי להגן על הקו הצפוני. זה צד אחד. צד שני, זה חיזוק משמעותי של כיתות הכוננות. תראי, ב-7 באוקטובר, הדבר הראשון שעשינו, זה לחזק את כיתות הכוננות בהרבה מאוד ציוד ומשאבים. חלקו הגדול והניכר אנחנו הבאנו בסיוע של הקהילות בצפון אמריקה, אבל לא רק, ובסוף זה יצר את הגיים צ'יינג'ר האמיתי, כי בדרום ראינו, כיתות הכוננות, יחד עם החיילים שהיו שם, הם היו בקרב הבלימה, אלה שבלמו משהו הרבה יותר גרוע. הם היו הראשונים להיות שם, ולכן גם בצפון צריך לחזק אותם משמעותית, כולל משאבים, תקציבים, כולל היכולת שבסוף חלקם הגדול יהיו מה שנקרא לצורך העניין סוג של מילואימניקים או שכירים, על מנת שנוכל לייצר את התגובה הראשונית. וכמובן הצבא שחייב להיות שם.
כן, זה באמת ראינו בדרום שבסופו של דבר הסיפורי גבורה שאנחנו ראינו, זה אלה שבאמת היו בקו הראשון הזה של ההגנה על הערים, ובסופו של דבר הציעו מלא חיים. נגיד יש אנשים בחול שרוצים לתמוך בעשייה, ובצפון בסופו של דבר לעזור בהתאוששות באיזושהי צורה שהם לא יכולים לבוא ולהתנדב עכשיו או משהו כזה, מה שרואים שאנשים בהמוניהם בישראל כן עושים. מה הם יכולים לעשות? איך הם יכולים לעזור ולתרום?
תראי, יש המון פרויקטים שבסוף יצטרכו לקבל ביטוי יותר משמעותי, אם זה שיקום, אם זה תוכן, גם בנושא חינוך, גם בחינוך בלתי פורמלי, גם במרכזי חוסן, גם במרכזי שיקום, לצד כמובן עוגנים מרכזיים שאנחנו יכולים לקדם אותם רק אם תהיה תמיכה של הקהילות בצפון אמריקה, כי הם מעבר לטיפול הדחוף הראשוני. הם הרבה יותר משמעותיים גם בתוכן וגם בעומק שלהם. ולכן אני חושב שבנושא הזה אפשר לשתף פעולה. אני יכול לומר לך שהיו לנו הרבה מאוד שת"פים בשנה האחרונה עם קהילות יהודיות. לדוגמה, לי היה שת"פ עם רוצ'סטר, באפסייט ניו יורק, שזה גם השותפות שלנו, ועשינו לא מעט דברים, כולל הנצחת חיילים וחיילות שנפלו במלחמת חרבות ברזל, נושא של כיתות כוננות. עשינו שת"פים עם הרבה מאוד רשויות, עם קהילות, גופים, ואני חושב שאפשר להמשיך את זה כדי לקדם את זה, אבל להתעסק בעיקר במהות. זה אומר בדברים שהמדינה לא יודעת לטפל בהם מיידית, להיכנס פנימה יחד עם אותם פילנטרופים, ולקדם את השותפית שתמיד עבדה יפה בין הקהילות היהודיות, בעיקר בצפון אמריקה, לבין הערים במדינת ישראל, וזה הזמן. בשנה האחרונה עשינו את חידוש הקשרים ואת העבודה המשותפת, ואני חושב שזה הזמן ללכת ולהגביר את זה. זה טוב לנו, זה טוב להם, זה מייצר את הזהות הנדרשת, ובסוף זה מייצר את החיבור האמיתי שצריך.
נכון מאוד. תודה רבה, חיים ביבס.
בבקשה.
Northern residents have endured rockets and drones for 15 months. This is only the beginning of the challenges they've faced. To explain the plight and heroism of Israel's northern residents, I'm joined by Moshe Davidovich, head of the Mata Esher Regional Council and chair of the Confrontation Line Forum of Northern Region. Moshe, many eyes have been cast down south to the Gaza area, with many forgetting the north. Can you give us a brief overview of the difficulties that northern residents have had to endure during this war?
Yes, I think the most important things now for our residents that are evacuated more than a year from their home, it's the situation that the northern border is not quietly. If we heard the general of the north, of the IDF, General Gordon, what he said in the Ministry of Defense last week, he said that the Hezbollah were trying to return to the border, trying to return by case as citizens of Lebanon that are supposing to rebuild their home. And the most difficult situation is to be evacuated more than here, and after here, to hear that we are not definitely secured. To be in a condition that you're supposed to get back to your home in March, in the beginning of March, without knowing that you have surely security village, security defense on the fence, it's unacceptable.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the northern residents have endured over the last 15 months? It's not just been rockets and drones. There's been threat of infiltration. There's been the problem that the government, you feel, has not been supporting you enough.
Yes, I think the most difficult it's that in the south, the government decided to make a plan that's called Kuma, and they took a constructor from this plan. And we are more than 40 months after the beginning of the war, the Iron Sword, and till now, we are not with a plan of the North. There is no budget, there is no plan, not in culture, not in education, not in agriculture, not in tourism, and most difficult is the situation of economy. And we are dealing with the government every month with the Prime Minister, and now we have a Minister of the North on the Negev that is now in charge, Zev Elkin, and till now we are not sure that we have the budget to solve the problem that we start in the 7th of October 23. And I think if the government will not make in few weeks a plan that they promise, the citizen that's supposed to get back, the evacuated citizen, most of them or part of them will not back to their home.
And the ceasefire that was signed between Israel and Hezbollah a few weeks ago, it hasn't improved the situation and vis-a-vis returning people back home?
You know, after 40 months, you are feeling that somebody is supposed to take care of you. And who is the somebody? The somebody is the government and the municipality. We took all the tools that we have to support them. But if you are getting back to your home and you hear that they don't complete the security cover and they don't complete the cure plan and the education plan that they promised to do, and all of those things, you are asking yourself if it's a right decision to get back to your village, to your kibbutz, or to your moshav, to your house, with knowing that the government is not complete what they promised to do. They are pray to get back to their home. They want to get back to their home. The kids are hopefully get now to their village and said, Mom, Dad, we are want to get back to our dog, to our garden, to our kibbutz. But if the government will not give them the ensuring that they are getting back with, not in the situation that they've been before the 7th of October, more and more, double and double supporting, this is a unacceptable situation.
No, the lack of support, lack of planning that you just detailed from the government. I understand that led your forum to famously declare that it would seek independence from Israel, that it would have a northern state if the Israeli government did not do more to help the situation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And since that declaration of independence, has the government done more to help the northern residents?
You know, it's not a threat. What we said, it's a feeling of 23 leadership, 23 mayor of the north that see that the government in the first of the beginning of the war without supporting, without knowing where and how and when the government will come to our region. Until December 23, nobody came to our region. Just in the last of December, the Prime Minister came with staff of ministry. So we say to them, we are feeling hopeless. We are feeling that you don't take care about what happened in North. And they said, we will make a plan. And after that, we took a part of time to deal with them. And after 3 or 4 months, we get again meeting with the Prime Minister Netanyahu and the ministers of security. And we say to them, what happened in the last 4 months? Nothing at all. Because of that, we said that we are looking forward to be an independent area, and we are supposed to take care for ourselves with our residents, with our refugees that are split over all the country. I think it's trying to shake them, to tell them that they must change their,
To change their plan, to change their ways.
their ways, how they do it. But till now, nothing is not changed. Till now, we don't have a plan. Till now, we don't have a budget for the North. And in the last week, in Thursday, we met again all the mayor of the Northern Galilee, all the mayor of the conflict zone, and we get out a letter that all of us sign with him to the minister of the North and the Negev, the minister that's supposed to care us, Zev Elkin. And we say them, Zev, we cannot wait a lot of time. We don't have a time to stay again with an unacceptable situation like this without budget and without plan of all the section that we supposed to take care. And we hope that in the last of this week, we will get a meeting with him and try to move this tax plan that we have till now.
So can you tell me what it is that you're going to tell them? What do residents of your area need to rebuild and to be able to continue to live in the area?
So the first step is supposed to be the security of the villages. We are not preparing again to feel as we feel after the 7th of October. We must get the army on the fence, and even in the places that are now in Lebanon, they're supposed to be there till we will sure that the Hezbollah will not return to the north of the border. And after that, we have the promise and the knowing that there is no doubt that the Hezbollah will not get back to our area. We're supposed to get our residents the mental health that they need. We have children, a lot of children that piss on the bed from the first of the beginning of the war till now. They are fearing, they are weakness, they are trying to know that somebody cared of them. And after the mental situation, we need helping, as I said, about economy, about the trees that we abandoned for more than here. We are the most growing of avocado all the country. Most of the avocado of Israel and even the export avocado is from our area. The trees was not feeding, was not cutting, and they are abandoned for more than a year, and we're supposed to get them again healthy. The tourism, we have hundreds of zimmers in our area. All of them are empty more than here. We have a few of company that abandoned more than here. All of those situations are not taken care by the government till now. They are just dealing with us now about getting back to the village. This is the only thing that the government now are dealing with us. And people are not stupid. People want to look forward for the future, to know that they can grow their children in the most beautiful place of Israel, and knowing that somebody is cared of them.
Well, I hope the resources that you need will be diverted north as soon as possible, and we can soon rebuild the north as much as possible. And I hope we can stop looking at the North as the North and as part of Israel and not as a separate entity. It's part of the country and the nation. And I hope we can all visit and see those avocados sometime soon. So Moshe, thank you very much for sharing the conditions in the North and what you need to continue to live there.
I'm a believer, and I'm sure it will be. We just need a little help, and we will push all over the Galilee to be the most beautiful place and the most attractive place in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now turn to a leader who has guided one of Israel's most diverse and dynamic cities through multiple challenges and transformations. Please welcome the mayor of Haifa, Mr. Yona Yahav. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Haifa has experienced serious hardships during this war, facing barrage after barrage of rockets from Hezbollah. What has helped resilience and what has proven to be a challenge in your experience?
I run the city also in the second Lebanese war, and also in this, the third Lebanese war. There is a huge difference between running the city then and today. Why is it a huge difference? Because in the meantime, in Haifa was invented the Iron Dome. And because of that, in the second Lebanese war, we had 500 buildings destroyed and 15 people killed. And today, only 2 buildings got destroyed and nobody got hurt. This is the difference. The invention of the Technion done in Haifa, this is the name of the game. And this gave us also the feeling of resilience, but the experience and the belief in me also gave the people, the inhabitants, the belief that things are run properly. And I thank them very much because this is the reason we have no casualties. But from the economic point of view, it was a very big disaster.
Yeah, it's been a huge challenge. What has the government done? Have you felt that it's been supportive at this time?
The government doesn't know that they have a nose.
Ouch.
They are not helping us. Jury also doesn't help us. We are totally alone, even though that we are special. Why are we special? Because we are the only city in the world which is exercising full peace between Jews and Arabs more than 100 years.
Right. I was going to mention it's one of the most mixed societies in all of Israel, not to mention the world in terms of Israeli and Jewish and Arabs. How do you kind of reach that point and still not, garner more a broader support, you'd think?
This I don't know. How come that the government doesn't count the north and the south, only the center? And no country in the world is based on one center, economical center. And this is the reason why we are in danger.
So you mentioned earlier that you also managed Haifa during the Second Lebanon War in 2006. To what extent did the experience you gained then help you prepare the city for another round of war, 18 years later?
We built tens of shelters, especially in the schools. We exercised how to deal with it, how to get up in the class and to run to a shelter. All this we did also with the inhabitants. We learned them that they are not living in a simple situation and they have to be absolutely obedient. And this is what happened.
Makes sense. The nuance of having a mixed society that's nevertheless extremely high-tech, extremely advanced, amid war, it's a very complicated position to manage as a city. What would you attribute to the city functioning with, kindness and respect in its roots in this context?
I didn't start it. I'm following it. Mm-hmm. The first mayor 100 years ago, he started it. He was a Muslim. And he started it and learned all us, and I'm the 10th in the row, to do and to honor everybody who lives here, because honoring somebody doesn't gain taxes. You are not paying taxes for honor. Give it unlimited, and especially to minorities. And this is what we are doing. We are doing it 100 years, and it works, because they are loyal to us, they are helpful, the Arabs, the Muslims in Haifa, and we are living one in the same buildings together. No
That's
problem.
not something you see often in Israel, unfortunately. How has the war, because Haifa was, before the war, a major tourist site. I'm personally a big fan of staycations in Haifa. I am a constant occupier of the Carmelit. But how has the war impacted this?
Very difficult. It's a total disaster of tourism. We are building hotels more and more, but they are not occupied. And we need you, all the people who are watching us, we need you to come. You wouldn't regret it, because it's the most beautiful city in Israel.
The best beaches.
I'm always saying that Jerusalem is the most beautiful city in the world, but in Israel it's Haifa.
That's brilliant. Yep. So I hope that the tourism industry recovers and that the city really gets what it needs in order to recover. Mayor of Haifa, Yona Yahav, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting.
Now to address the challenges of making Aliyah and the foundational brotherhood of Israelis in supporting one another through crises, we welcome Mark Rees, who heads foreign resident and new immigrant activity at Mizrahi Tfachot Bank. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. When we think about the issues facing the northern residents today in the wake of the war, one doesn't evidently think of a bank helping people with this crisis. Can you tell us a little bit about how Mizrahi Tfachot has been helping the residents of the north?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. For me, the contribution, as much as the product service package that the bank would give, it's equally the thought behind them and the process in creating relevant and added value products from a dedicated team as to how to ease the burden on those whose lives have been so disturbed and challenged over the last year or so, 15 months or so. To me, that's probably as impressive as the products and services that the bank is providing. There are two types of products. There's existing products which have been improved to match the situation, and there's new products which have been created for the new situation which has been which has transpired. We have, I suppose, three types of clients which will be relevant for. You have the retail clients, individuals, as it were. They might need things like bridging loans, renovation loans to freshen up places that they haven't been to for almost a year, perhaps even 15 months. And then deposits too. I'll get into a little bit more detail on those products. We've also got the business segment, and their needs are slightly different. Remember, these guys almost in one day abruptly had to give up their businesses, had to stop everything, and were basically evacuated, and things stopped immediately. So to restart their business, they might need restarting business loans, much bigger sums involved there from dedicated funds for that segment. They might need helping when they start with their business, how to manage and better their cash flow, because it won't be so easy right at the beginning to maintain a good level of cash flow. Therefore, the bank will have products on how to help that and some loans, how to support that. And also in terms of, and this is a new product, which is, I find quite impressive, and this is an example of where thought has been gone into, not just what you would have thought as a dedicated banking product, but how to encourage business and tourism back into these areas and to help grow those business by providing vouchers at discount for people, for businesses, whether it's particularly up north now, which is a beautiful part of Israel. And so to encourage people to go there, these businesses can subscribe with the bank and will discount vouchers for use for people to transact with these businesses. Also for our mortgage clients, coming back after 12 to 15 months back home, they might want an all-purpose loan but a quick and simple process how to achieve that based on an existing security which they are using to get their mortgage, and we could provide them with funds as to how to get back to routine quickly. Also, life goes on. There'll be people who want to take new mortgages in the communities which have been evacuated. They want to purchase homes there. Therefore, we'll provide benefits for new mortgages for people who want to purchase properties in those areas. And there's significant benefits that can be had there. I understand that at least 100,000 shekels, for example, of a mortgage at super competitive rates, in addition to the mortgage or as part of the mortgage that they'll be taking. Also, renovation loans. You come back to a property after not being in there for well over a year, and it probably needs a touch-up. It's not quite as significant as perhaps redoing the whole building, but it's a nice thought as to how to help with those.
Sometimes it's the little things that count.
Very much so. And also, there'll be people who, even though they restart their businesses and their lives, they need some additional income to support for that. So the bank is coming up with a new product as to how to leverage from the existing mortgage and to give them more money, but on a monthly basis to supplement their income, which may be less than they were used to before this whole episode started. A little bit more detail on the retail or the individual clients that I said. And this actually very much reflects the thought process going in. You know, after coming back to an uninhabited property after a lengthy period of time, and especially the properties that have been significantly damaged, whether it's by missile strikes or whatever, there would obviously be masses of claims going into Mas Rechush, or to the assessor's office, in order to claim for the damage on their property, and that they can receive money and start building as they would like to. So because of the expected delays with these things, the bank will supply a bridging loan with no security based on the expected claim to come. I think it's up to 70% of that claim, or up to 150,000 shekels. Also at very competitive rates. That's the whole point of this. And that will take pressure off those waiting for their claims to be processed. I thought that's a very touching product there. Coming back to a house which just needs to be, the bathroom to be freshened up or to be touched up, or the kitchen to be done up, you know, light refurbishment, as it were, small loans, competitive pricing for that. Some people might be receiving their money quicker than they thought. And to take the pressure off them having to use it, instead of it sitting in their account, and to give them time to decide what it is exactly they might want to do and what to fix. So the bank has come up with some deposits which will, while maintaining liquidity, which means the ability to get to their money much easier than locking it away for long periods of time, yet still with very high or competitive interest rates. So these are the type of products which would be relevant and suitable for individuals, specifically from the north right now.
So on the business end of things, I understand that Bank Mizrahi has also opened up a portal on its website to enable people, not just from the north, but across the country impacted by this war, to better sell their products abroad. Is that correct?
Yeah, not abroad, but within Israel. Yes, that's part of the. It's a lovely idea that the bank's come up with. It's called Katon Israel, which is Orange Israel. Our brand is actually orange, so there's a lovely connection there. But yeah, we have on our website a platform dedicated to those that subscribe to do so, to register their businesses, and we support and encourage and facilitate the sale of their products online. And that can only help for people coming back to their businesses now, not just for the business perspective, but for the client perspective too, to make it easier for them to help with these businesses too. There are other things as well which aren't necessarily relating just to the north, but are no less impressive due to the situation down the south and to any other part of Israel affected. The bank took upon itself to adopt, it's called Kulanu Kfar Aza, and also Sderot, to adopt, not just for the short term, but for the long term, the communities of Kfar Aza and Sderot. And while, you know, and I spent many years working abroad in banks, you know, banks can always give money to causes, but it's particularly nice when you see it's not just about the money, it's about the effort and the dedication, and not just short-term, but long-term accommodation for the, what I would consider very important causes that we choose to support. So supporting and adopting Kfar Aza and Sderot, from even reasonably or what seemingly might feel like relatively trivial things like donating to their pub in Kfar Aza so people can have some sort of normal life and social activity when they're ready. Helping with temporary accommodation, dior zmani in Hebrew, helping with various parties during Hanukkah and things like that. Those are nice ideas. The bank also took upon itself to adopt a gdud in the army. This particular one is Gdud Sabar Givati. Not just with money, but with visits to those who have been giving their lives and their time in protecting us while we sleep, while we function in our daily lives. And these guys would appreciate whether it's treats and small indulgences and some financial help, but as much visits from the bank, from workers who genuinely care and would visit the injured and help them with the whole process.
So that's a whole separate other program that you've also established to visit soldiers in the hospital as well.
Oh, well, there's something called Chozrim L'Chaim, which is actually on the cheshbon of the bank, or on the bank's time, as it were, but they encourage workers to visit twice a week. Those, and they go to the shikum, whether it's in Sheba or in Soroka, and they're part of the shikum. And I understand that the feeling on both sides is quite amazing. There's genuine, tangible help to those injured and a genuine feeling of meaning given by the bank staff that go and do this. So it's quite wonderful to be part of that.
All these programs for the North, for the rest of Israel that's been impacted by the war, I guess for a lot of people the question might be why? If this is a bank, it's a financial institution, what was the thought behind this?
Well, to be honest with you, as far as I'm concerned, it's actually not that far from what we do as a bank in any case. We genuinely believe that a bank is only as good as the person sitting opposite you. It's about people in any case and what we do from a banking perspective. In our particular bank, for example, Mizrahit Fachot, we've always believed that it's the people part of the bank. We've been probably the only bank opening branches, believing in the face-to-face contact with people. So therefore, for us, it's not dissimilar to think, how can we help the people involved as opposed to just throwing out money to support them? All of what we've just spoken out, as far as I'm concerned, reinforces that we really are there for clients in times of need, and that we try sincerely to go to that extra mile with, and this is the key word, relevant and value-added products, not just throwing things their way and seeing what hits and what's missed. And that's the idea of the thought process behind it, to make them relevant.
Tell me a little bit more about the thought process behind another kind of branch of people that the bank is servicing, the new immigrant demographic. How is the bank meeting their needs as they're coming to Israel during the war?
As the head of the foreign resident and the new immigrant business, and really and truly from our perspective, the foreign resident is a new immigrant to be, because they will be laying the groundwork. It's equally as important to understand why they'll want to be coming to Israel. I mean, that's the fundamentals of banking in any case. Our whole aim is to provide relevant solutions to people. And if you don't understand their true needs, in other words, if we can truly empathize with people as opposed to just sympathize with them, then we'll succeed. So the first thing that we'll be doing is understanding why they want to be coming in the first place. And this is important. So we've discussed before, the world is full of uncertainty at the moment, whether it's politically, economically, geopolitical. The world is in many ways in crisis in many places. Also, the unbelievable resurgence of anti-Semitism all over the place, and not just in the usual places which we might have seen or expected, but in the Western world, in the capital cities, and in university campuses, and some of the best universities in the world. These are all very unsettling times. All of that plays a part, but from my perspective, that isn't the reason. And from my understanding, from my speaking with people in communities around the world, this is not why people are coming. You have to remember the Israeli economy is strong. some figures. In the last 2 years, the shekel has been the strongest performing, or one of the top 2 strongest performing currencies globally. And this is in time of war. Just imagine what we could achieve if we were able to fully dedicate ourselves just to a productive economy and not have to dedicate so much time and effort to our heroic efforts in the war. There is so much to add here. If you look at the statistics abroad, for example, there's about 205 countries around the world today. From an economic perspective, we are around number 28 in GDP. We are a 2 trillion shekel economy, about $560 billion economy. But from a GDP per capita, which is the productivity per person, we are number 13 in the world, about $58,000. This is an economy which is free and it's creative. And it generates, and it's based on talent. And that brings in capital and it brings in people. And that's the main reason why people want to come to Israel. Yes, it's helped by the fact that there are circumstances abroad which are very, very, very difficult and distressing. But the Israeli economy and the atmosphere here, and if you don't mind me adding, but when you see here how the heroes who are protecting us and standing up for us and fighting for what we believe to be right in this unjust war that we've been facing, or just from our perspective, but unjust in the way it was started against us, and you compare that to the helpless, in many ways, communities abroad, or the young adults who really can't do very much, and they see what the young adults here are able to do for us and the heroism which they display, yeah, they want to be part of that and contribute and be part of our future. So when you understand that, then you can understand how you serve these clients. And what will the first thing they need to do to lay the groundwork of coming here? Well, they'll want to decide where they want to live. Should they rent? Should they buy? We can provide them with mortgages. If they want to rent or receive rent, they'll need transactional bank accounts. If they want, they'll be often coming from places where the shekel obviously is not their natural native currency. How foreign currency, how foreign exchange, how the accounts work with non-native currency, with sterling, with dollars, with euro, with Swiss francs, whatever it is. For those that have family here, how they can support them, how the banking relationships support good causes that they may want. For those who are affiliated a little bit more and laying the groundwork really for a near-term aliyah, they might want to invest in a local, or invest locally in businesses or in real estate, and the bank can cater for that too.
So I think that you've laid out a optimistic future that Bank Mizrahi is involved with, and thank you very much for speaking with us today and bring some hope to the troubles that we're seeing up north.
Thank you very much. If I just say one more word, it really is all about the people. And therefore, from whether it's the banking perspective or whether it's from the country which attracts so much, we're only as good as the person sitting opposite you. And that's where we excel.
Thank you, Mark.
We now turn to a visionary leader in Israel's innovation ecosystem. Please welcome Erel Margalit, founder and chairman of JVP and Margalit Startup City, who has been instrumental in transforming regions through technological entrepreneurship and economic development. Erel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think that a lot of people from outside of Israel are desperate to find ways to help, especially with Israel's north, and can't really figure out the right way to do that other than, flying to Israel and volunteering themselves. But your field, venture capital investments, might be the exact way to do that. What can you tell us about investment opportunities in Israel's north, and what is the Margalit Startup City and JVP doing there?
So about 5 years ago, we established in the city of Kiryat Shmona, which is just about on the Lebanese border next to Tel Chai College and next to 28 kibbutzim, climate tech, food tech, ag tech hub. And just before the war, we had about 104 companies there, between there and Rosh Pina, which is about 15 kilometers to the south. And what happened after October 8th, of course, is that many of these companies have been evacuated. But about 6 months ago, we reopened the center in Machanaim. Machanaim is near an airport 20 kilometers to the south. And about a month ago, we reopened our center in Kiryat Shmona. And so not all the startups, just about 30% of the startups have come back. The students of Tel Hai are coming back. And many people in the kibbutzim, in the city, are beginning to come back in a big way. But there are interesting companies. Some of them are struggling. Some of them are succeeding. And we have a big impact fund together with Israel's Innovation Authority and together with JNF and together with Bank of Paulim and Deloitte and some major partners that are with us. And we're helping to continue to invest in startups that are trying to change the world of food, the world of climate, and the world of agriculture.
So are there any particular startups in Israel's northern region that have gotten your attention as someone whose business it is to stay in the loop on these things?
Yes, so there's a great company called Green Eye, which was actually founded by three founders from Shaldag, which is a great unit in the army a few years ago. And they are able to cut 90% of the pesticides when they spray a field because they have a camera and a semiconductor chip that distinguishes between the weed and the crop. So think of it like an inkjet for spraying the field. So they're able to save a lot of the chemicals and really have a very accurate penetration just to the weeds. So that's a great company that is now coming into America in a big way. And that's one of the examples where you can have great cooperation between the Galilee and the great agriculture and things that they're developing there, and North America and the rest of the world, which is really needing new innovation in many ways.
Yes, absolutely. I think those innovations coming out of the North is like the best way to show that the North is alive, thriving, succeeding, and can do so once more. But what are your predictions for the day after, so to speak, once we're in the clear, in the calm zone, and can not only rehabilitate, but perhaps even thrive again? How do you see Israel's high-tech and business sectors moving forward?
Well, JVP is active throughout the country and actually here in New York as well. So we have a fintech, a cyber, an insurtech, SaaS AI hub. And so many of our companies are now beginning to surpass $100 million of revenues. So companies like Ernix, which is surpassing $100 million, ControlUp, Nanit, which is the #1 baby monitor for sleep in the US that came from the Technion and Cornell, but is now, most of US parents are using it in order to track their baby's sleep. So there's big ideas and big companies, and Israelis, together with their partners in New York and together with their partners in Europe and around the world, we're still developing some of the most interesting, innovative companies that are coming around the world in the fields of the intersections between AI and cyber and fintech and insurtech and enterprise. So this is going to continue. And in order for continuing the success, what I preach to Israelis is, you need to work on your product in Israel. You need also to be very connected to the market in the US, very connected to the market in Europe, and sometimes in Asia as well. And I hope that the conclusion of the war will come in soon. And with the release of the hostages, a lot of us are optimistic. Israel needs a new chapter after the war. It needs to transmit this message to the world, transmit this message to the younger people who've served in Miluim and then served around the country. We need a new chapter of rebuilding in the north, in the south, in the center of Israel, and we need a new chapter to connect to the rest of the world. The world is looking for that, and we need to give them the sign on a business level and a political level.
It makes a lot of sense, right, to show that not only Israel is thriving, but all of Israel is thriving across all regions. But at the same time, many people are quite afraid for Israel, and I can only assume that it affects investments as well, especially given the dropped credit ratings by Moody's and S&P. Do you think there is legitimate cause for concern, and what should we be looking at or taking into account when kind of thinking about what this is going to cause in the long run?
Well, there's legitimate criticism in the budget of the state of Israel because the law that allows many of the ultra-Orthodox community not to serve in the army, and the law that doesn't distribute the budget in a way that we think should be distributed, has gotten criticism not only in Israel but also around the world. So what we're saying is this: look, the high-tech industry in Israel has been very strong. It's been holding the economy. We're still continuing to create some of the most interesting companies. We're still continuing to partner with places like New York and Paris and London and Hong Kong and Singapore and other places around the world. And so this is going to be pushing forward. What we are asking the government is to have a much more business savvy budget that will allow people to go back to work, whether it's high tech, whether it's small businesses, whether it's the Israelis that are serving in the army sometimes 70 days, 90 days, allowed to distribute the burden between people in a more equal and equitable way. But, you know, I think that for many of us in the high-tech community, we realize that high-tech has become not only a business sector, but also a card for diplomacy. So we are dealing with the UAE, we are dealing with the Saudis, we are dealing with different regions in the world, and themes like cybersecurity, fintech, insurtech, water, agriculture, climate tech, all these things are things that Israel is continuing to lead, not only world, but also in the region. And what we're looking for is a political move that will complement the kind of things that we're doing on the ground economically, that would give a boost to the alliance that Israel can have in the region and taking the country to the next stage. We hope that the US administration, together with Israel, we hope that the business community will work with us to open a new chapter. A lot of the young people in Israel need a new chapter. They've been busting their ass on the battlefield, but they want to come back and build companies and build the economy and build the social concepts and projects that Israel so much needs for the younger generation.
Absolutely. Let's hope that the government supports these many important endeavors. Ariel Margalit, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm joined today to discuss supporting Israel's North with JNF's Chief Marketing Officer, Jody Bogner. Jody, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Now, for my first question, just want to get right into it. Can you share why you're so passionate about supporting Israel's North?
Sure. So for many years, Jewish National Fund USA has spent all of its efforts on building up the south of Israel, the Negev and beyond, and the north of Israel. These are the areas, the frontiers, as people like to call them, which require most of our concentration. The center of the country, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem, doesn't need our efforts. It's crowded and expensive, and we need to find places for people to move to. To do that, you need to create quality of life opportunities. And so we've concentrated, we have a campaign called Go North. We've had it for a very long time to bring 300,000 people to Israel's northern borders, frontiers. And to do that, you need to create housing opportunities, employment opportunities, tourism opportunities, quality of life opportunities, education, informal education. And we've been focusing on this for quite a while because we need to move the population there. And so it's a passion. We've gotten to know the people. We've worked with them well before October 7th, October 8th. And they're our family, and we are helping elevate them together with them, where we partner with them, we meet with them, we collaborate with them, and together we come up with the initiatives that are going to change their lives. And it's not just about a single project. We create initiatives that are going to have ripple effects, and we call it circles of impact. And so certainly since the war began, we've refocused our efforts. We've been doing a ton of work in the South and the OTEF, and now, thankfully, with the quiet that's happening, we're dedicating ourselves to rebuilding, reimagining the North, as we like to call it. And it's an area that's beautiful, rife with wonderful opportunities, a coexisting lifestyle. There's all kinds of cultures that exist there, and religions that coexist, and a people that really want to elevate themselves. And so together with them, we are building up the North to entice, people to move back, and for more people to move too.
So JNF is more than just about planting trees. It's about planting those roots for the nation as well.
Absolutely. So I've been Chief Marketing Officer for 10 years, worked for Jewish National Fund for 20. And yes, we are known as the Tree People. We don't want to lose that identity. It's a wonderful, rich history and legacy that we continue to maintain. But yes, we are really about building up the north and south of Israel. And so our roots now are centered in, as I said, collaborating with all the municipalities and the people who live there and bringing opportunities for growth. So, for instance, we are building a medical center in Kiryat Shmona. The closest hospital is too far away for people who have accidents, who need immediate care, who their child broke an arm falling off of a playground, they got a bee bite, they need immediate attention. And to entice people to move, you need to offer them medical attention, among other things. So we're building a medical center in Kiryat Shmona and an emergency response center. We're building a culinary institute in Kibbutz Gonen.
I heard about that previously. Is that still going ahead despite the war?
So it's unbelievable. We have maintained building our medical center and our culinary institute all throughout. And in fact, we heard stories one day, people saw tons of cement coming in on the roads up north, and they got very nervous. They didn't know who it was or what it was. And so they called the mayor, and he said, oh, that's JNF, and they're bringing in cement to build their medical center, right? So even though everybody was leaving, we were still there building. Because that's who we are and that's what we do. So we're putting up a culinary institute. And as my CEO, Russell Robinson, likes to say, if car washes would bring employment and people, we would do that as well. But this culinary institute is perfectly situated up north, where there's 82 different cultures and tons of different culinary avenues that people like to pursue. The north is the food basket of Israel. So we're not only building this culinary institute for people to attend, it's a world-class, different than anywhere else in the world, culinary institute. Sure, we want students to go there, but it's about the ripple effect of that institute. It's about the tourism opportunities it's going to bring. It's about the people who are going to come to the restaurant. It's about the brewery that we're creating. We have a chocolate making. We're doing a farm, and we're going to have farm to table. So it's going to bring people to operate those businesses. They're going to need to live somewhere. Their children are going to need to go to school somewhere. People are going to come to the restaurant. They're going to want to stay over. They're going to look for nearby B&Bs and hotels. And again, it's that circle of impact that we're creating with all of our initiatives.
How can individuals help expand their own circle of impact? You know, in the same way that JNF is moving on just being the tree people, how can people do more than just donate? What else can people do to help support Israel's North?
Sure. Please don't make light of donations, because that's...
No, of course not. I would not.
So we bring tons of people to Israel every year. In fact, starting December of 23, we've been bringing volunteer missions every 2 weeks. Couple of, 4,000 or 5,000 people have already come. And of course, we first started with agricultural volunteering, and then we started going into the communities in the OTEF and cleaning up their parks and their houses and painting and their schools. And now we're focusing on the north as well. So if you want to actually get your hands dirty and feel like you're part of building this country physically, a volunteer mission with Jewish National Fund is the way to go. Everything's updated on our website, jnf.org. But you can send a student, a child or a grandchild to our Alexander Nemus High School in Israel for the best, most up-to-date 4,000-year of history Zionist education. You can send a student for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, for a semester, high school students, and they come back loud and proud Zionists like you've never seen. You can get involved if you live in the United States. You can get involved. We have boards all across the country. We have events going on all across the country. We're always looking for people who are passionate about building the land of Israel to come and join. You get involved in a specific area of our work. You can come and actually go see the work that's being done, joining what we call task forces, who actually get very down and dirty with specific areas. And of course, attend our events. We have a global conference every year. This year it's going to be in South Florida in October. And it's a fantastic weekend where you surround yourself with 2,500 to 3,000 other like-minded Zionists. And you really just learn about how to stand up, get loud on social media, and be proud and put out the word that Israel is here to stay, and Jewish National Fund USA is very supportive of the land and people.
Given that we're here to stay, and given the picture that you've painted of the North in the future with breweries, and new hospitals, and maybe new car washes, what's JNF's vision for the next 50 years of northern Israel, or your vision for that?
Sure. So we don't just plan for today. We have a strategic vision, and we really plan for the next 5 to 50 years. It's how we approach everything that we do strategically. We see, and based on our conversations with the people who live there, a thriving metropolis of opportunity where people take advantage of all of that the North has to offer, but there's educational opportunities. There's great colleges up there. We're working with Errol Margalit and a Margalit startup, City Galil. We have an employment center, one in Kiryat Shmona and one in Akko, which is helping match employers up with employees. There's so much opportunity. We are working hard on bringing more tourism to the area, starting with the Western Galil, moving all the way up to Kiryat Shmona. And we do this all by partnering with other established organizations and NGOs. We don't believe in recreating the wheel. We believe in working with the people who are already making it happen. So we really envision this fantastic, beautiful green oasis of opportunity, of wonderful people, of thriving cities, kibbutzim and moshavim, of a coexisting experience, living side by side in peace with your neighbors who live there. And just in allowing people to innovate and create just the future of tomorrow.
Well, it's a beautiful vision, and I hope that together with all the people who can volunteer, either by donations or by all these other things you've laid out, I hope they can work together with JNF to realize that vision, and it'll come sooner rather than later.
I hope so. We are open to everyone trying to work with us, and there's no bad idea. We really appreciate everybody who comes to our table and talks to us and with us.
Thank you, Jody.
So thank you, Mike.
Now to address the critical infrastructure that will underpin the North's recovery, we welcome Amit Lang, CEO of Mekorot, Israel's national water company. This interview will be conducted in Hebrew and will be translated into English. Amit, תודה רבה שאתה מצטרף אלינו.
תודה רבה.
דבר ראשון שאני רוצה לדבר עליו זה המצב של תשתית בצפון. כאילו, עם כל הרקטות, המרגמות, הנונטטים, מה המצב של התשתית בצפון, והאם אתם מצליחים לספק הצפון מים עדיין?
טוב, קודם כל, אנחנו ממשיכים לספק מים כסדרם, ועשינו זאת גם במהלך כל המלחמה, למעט אירועים בדידים שבהם נפגעו חלק מהתשתיות בצורה נקודתית, אבל גם את זה ידענו לפתור תוך כדי תנועה, וזה בזכות באמת העובדים המדהימים שיש למקורות, המחויבות שלהם, היציאה שלהם לתקן תקלות ולהתגבר על בעיות תוך כדי אש. לשאלתך הראשונה, האם נפגעו התשתיות? כן, נפגעו התשתיות. במקומות שונים היו פגיעות גם במתקנים ספציפיים, זאת אומרת גם במתקני שאיבה והספקת מים שכוללים מבנה חשמל וכדומה, וגם בצנרת. בנינו תוכנית עבודה, מיד שהוכרזה הפסקת האש, בנינו תוכנית עבודה עצימה, להחזיר את הכל לשימוש מהיר, תוך כדי זה שאני אומר עוד פעם, הספקת המים לא נפגמה בשל היתירות ובשל היכולת הגבוהה של אנשינו למצוא פתרונות בינתיים, אבל התשתיות האלה הכרחיות, ואנחנו נשקם אותם תוך מספר חודשים, עד כשנה גג, ובמקביל לכך חזרנו לתנופת הפיתוח האדירה שמקורות נמצאת בה, בכל רחבי הארץ, אבל גם בצפון, עם הרבה דגש לחיבורים נוספים של אזורים שמרוחקים יותר מהמערכת, ונשענים כרגע על מקורות מים אזוריים. אנחנו רוצים לחבר את כולם למערכת הארצית, להתפלה ולאמינות ההספקה המאוד גבוהה של המערכת הארצית.
והעבודות האלה, אתם עושים את זה ממש מתחת אש?
תראה, כרגע אין אש, אז אנחנו עושים את זה מן הסתם בצורה שגרתית, אבל כשהיה אש, כן, עשינו חלק מהעבודות ממש תחת אש, כמובן עוד פעם, מבלי לסכן את חיי העובדים, תחת תיאום מלא עם הצבא, והכנות מיוחדות מראש, מיגון אישי, הרמת צוללות אפר, הימצאות של טנקים ומשוריינים בסביבה על מנת לגונן על העובדים, אבל כן, תחת אש.
חוץ מהאש, כשאמרנו כרגע הפסיק, איזה עוד אתגרים עומדים מולכם, מול הצפון, כאילו, אתגרים נגד השיקום של הצפון בשנים.
אז בסופו של יום האתגרים העיקריים הם אתגרי קצב הפיתוח. מקורות מזה מספר שנים מבצעת פיתוח בצורה אינטנסיבית מאוד, מאוד גדולה, בצורה מאוד אינטנסיבית בכל רחבי הארץ, בהיקף של בערך 1.5 מיליארד שקל בשנה. המלחמה האטה אותנו קצת, בגלל שבמקומות מסוימים אי אפשר היה להיכנס ולהמשיך לפתח, בגלל שחלק מוועדות הסטטוטוריקה והתכנון הואט הקצב שלהם, בחלק מהיישובים לא היה בכלל עם מי לדבר, לתאם את הכניסות האלה, וזה בגלל הפינויים. האתגר העיקרי שלנו הוא לחזור לקצב הזה שהיינו בו בשנים הקודמות. שמנו לעצמנו יעד את 2025, לחזור ל1.5 מיליארד. זה יעד שאפתני, כי אני אומר עוד פעם, הרבה מאוד מהאורגנים, אותם אורגנים שמאפשרים לנו להגביר את הקצב, עוד לא חזרו לתפקוד מלא, אבל אנחנו שמנו לעצמנו את היעד הזה כדי לחזור ל1.5 מיליארד, מתוך כוונה בשנים הבאות, אפילו להגדיל אותו לאזור ה-1.8. בתוך זה יש מאות מיליונים שמיועדים לעבודות בצפון, של תשתית נוספת של מים לצפון. בנוסף, אמור להיכנס גם מתקן התפלה חדש, באזור הגליל המערבי, שאמור לחבר את כל הצפון לעוד מקור מים מאוד משמעותי. זה מתקן גדול.
האם יש עוד תשתיות קריטיות שחסרות כרגע? אם יש איזה עוד משהו שאתם צריכים?
לא, תכלס, הכל מתוכנן. אנחנו יודעים בדיוק איך צריכה להיראות המערכת עשרות שנים קדימה. יש עדיין, אני אומר עוד פעם, העיכובים העיקריים הם עיכובים בשרשרת בירוקרטית של אישורים שונים. בין אם זה מרשות המים, בין אם זה מהוועדות הסטטוטוריות, בין אם זה מחלק מהוועדות האזוריות שהן אחראיות על התכנון והנפקת היתרי הבנייה והיתרי הכניסה לביצוע. אלה בעיקר החסמים, אנחנו מטפלים בהם. אני מאמין שיהיה בסדר.
כבר דיברת על איך חברתם כאילו, הגליל לעוד מקור מים, אבל בכלי, מה הפוקוס באספקת מים בצפון ברמת הגולן בשנים הקרובים?
תראה, הרעיון הוא שכל יישוב וכל נקודה על המפה שיש בה או חקלאות או מגורים, תהיה מחוברת למערכת הארצית. יש עדיין מספר אזורים יותר פריפריאליים במדינת ישראל, בצפון ובדרום, שעדיין נשענים על מקורות מים מקומיים, כלומר קידוחים של מי תהום, אגב, גם שמקורות מפעילה אותם, אבל אנחנו יודעים שקידוחים ומי תהום הם מקור פחות אמין. הוא מאוד חשוף לזיהומים, הוא מאוד חשוף לרעידות אדמה, אפילו קלות שאנחנו לא מרגישים אותם, הוא חשוף לתקלות, כי קידוח עמוק בעומק של מאות מטרים הוא רגיש. ולכן האתגר שלנו, הרצון שלנו והשאיפה שלנו היא לחבר את כל הנקודות גם למערכת הארצית, שהיא מערכת הכי אמינה בעולם. מערכת אספקת המים של מקורות היא המערכת הכי אמינה בעולם. ולכן כל נקודה שנצליח לחבר לתוך המערכת הארצית, תבטיח בעצם אספקת מים רציפה באמינות מלאה. זה השאיפה, זה ההסתכלות, ולשם אנחנו הולכים.
יש לכם כאילו מטרה, כמה זמן זה יקח? קשה לדעת עם המלחמה.
תראה, קודם כל, כרגע, בתוכניות הקיימות, מדובר על מספר קטן של שנים. אני מעריך שתוך 3-4 שנים, כמעט כל האזורים, אותם אזורים שציינתי, יהיו מחוברים בצורה כזאת או אחרת למערכת הארצית. להמשך לבוא צריך להגדיל את זה. זאת אומרת, צריך להגדיל גם את הכמויות וגם את הכתרים. זה יבוא יחד עם הגידול בהתפלה, ויחד עם הרבה לחץ שלנו על המערכות לאשר התקדמות נוספת. אבל את החיבור הראשוני ואת מה שנקרא, את האמינות ההספקה הראשונית, אנחנו נקבל תוך 3-4 שנים.
אז זה טוב שאנחנו כבר חושבים על העתיד של הצפון, וברגע, עכשיו במלחמה הזה, תודה שאתם דואגים שהמים ימשיך לזרום, ויש מה לשתות.
אנחנו תמיד נהיה שם ותמיד נדאג לזה, ואני אגיד עוד משהו שהוא פחות נהוג במקומותינו, מקורות לא חושבת על 3-4 שנים קדימה, מקורות תמיד מסתכלת 20 שנה קדימה, מסתכלת על תופעות האקלים, מסתכלת על האתגרים ומתכננת הכל מראש. בגלל זה אנחנו מהחברה הכי טובה בעולם.
תמיד, תודה רבה.
בבקשה.
We now turn to examine the security foundations essential for the North's revival. Please welcome Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and chairman of Israel's Defense and Security Forum, Habitchonistim. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
The first thing I want to ask you is, has the situation improved since October 7th?
Well, of course, it improved dramatically. I mean, Hezbollah was a very dominant and strong organization with 150,000 rockets and missiles and drones. And the IDF managed to hit Hezbollah really, really hard, decreasing its capabilities by 70%, toppling its leadership. One of the big questions is, we have been talking for years that Hezbollah is able to shoot 2,000, 3,000 rockets and missiles at Tel Aviv. People were talking about whole neighborhoods that will be destroyed, electricity. It didn't happen. Now, it didn't happen not because Hezbollah theoretically didn't have the capability. It's because of the way Israel conducted the campaign. It toppled the leadership in a way that there was nobody taking the decision to go to a full-scale war. So Israel actually acted as a full-scale war, while Hezbollah never moved from attrition war to a full-scale war. There was nobody to take this decision. And this is the genius of this campaign that the IDF with the Mossad managed to do. And Hezbollah has been hit very, very hard. It will take them many, many years to recuperate. And our mission is to make sure it never happens again. We need to really enforce the agreement and make sure they cannot rebuild themselves.
As you said earlier, Hezbollah hasn't given up. They're still fighting. Since the beginning of the operation, the goal, as far as what a lot of Israelis have heard, is returning the residents to the north. And a lot of them are still expressing that they're not safe. So what do you see in your eyes is the solution to ensuring that they feel safe and they actually have security restored in the region?
So we took the citizens out of the north, not because of missiles, which can be shot, even at Tel Aviv, but because of the threats of the Radwan forces on the border. The threat, as we saw it in Gaza with the Nukba storming our towns and butchering, 1,200 people. So the IDF went into Lebanon, destroyed all the infrastructure of Radwan forces in a perimeter of 2, 3, 4 kilometers. Everything is leveled down. And we need to make sure that Israel make sure that nobody goes back to this area. We need this area as a buffer zone, as a dead zone, whether the IDF is inside Lebanon or not. We need an area that is clean from any infrastructure, any citizens or operatives of Hezbollah, in order to really make sure that our citizens are safe and be able to bring them home. But we also need to make sure that Hezbollah cannot rebuild itself anywhere, not only in South Lebanon, all over Lebanon. And now it should be easier because Syria has fallen. Iran is not in Syria anymore. It's harder for Hezbollah to smuggle weapons through the Syrian border. We pretty much control the airspace and also the sea. And if we see any buildup, we need to attack, just as we do in Syria. Lebanon needs to be like Syria. The IDF needs to enjoy full freedom of operation unless Lebanon enforces Resolution 1559 and dismantles completely Hezbollah and any other militia from their weapons and move them to only to be a political entity and not a terror army.
And is Israel moving in that direction? Habitchonistim recently met with Defense Minister Katz, and what does he expect will next happen? Did he impress upon you what will happen?
He talked a lot about Lebanon and also Syria. I think he was unhappy about the fact that in the ceasefire, there was no clear understanding that Israel needs this buffer zone. And I think that now, after 60 days, when we see that Lebanon are not really able to enforce on Hezbollah the deal, Israel is, I would say, renegotiating the deal and saying, we need a buffer zone. We need to stay as long as Hezbollah is not dismantled. And I think that part of the overall strategy is looking at Iran. At the end of the day, this is an Iranian militia. And the big question is, what about the head of the snake? When are we going to hit Iran, hopefully with America, and really bring down the Shia axis? When Iran will fall, Hezbollah probably will fall with it.
Syria was once part of that axis and is seen as no longer being part of that network. now that Assad has fallen, that he's fled, are we going to see a realignment of diplomatic policy? What would you like to see happen with Syria?
It's very hard to predict what will happen in Syria because the current leadership are Sunni radicals that grew in Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They try to appease the West, but these are very extreme people. Israel is going to follow very closely what will happen in Syria, and we don't know where this is going. Whether there will be some kind of agreement between them and the Kurds and the Druze and the Alawis, or we'll see them going again to a full civil war. How a dominant Turkey is going to be in all of this, what will happen with the Kurds. There are many issues that we need to follow, but we have a clear understanding. We need to counter both the Shia axis and the radical Sunni axis by building a Western Israeli moderate Sunni alliance. This means normalizing relations with Saudi Arabia and other Muslim countries like Indonesia, for example. I think this is where things are going. So we need, on one hand, an alliance that will counter this Chinese, Russian, Iranian front, especially the Shia axis, the Iranian Shia axis, but also the radical Sunni axis that has strengthened since the U.S. leaving Afghanistan. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was devastating to the region, and we see again a buildup of radical Sunni elements in the region.
For my last question, what role does civil society organizations like Bitonistim have to play in securing the North and ensuring that there's not going to be an October 7th from the North like Hezbollah wanted, that the situation in Syria is going to change for the better?
Well, I think that we have a big responsibility in really shaping the narrative of what is needed to secure Israel for generations to come. From the very beginning, we had the right ideas. We foresaw the war. We saw the war coming. You know, we wrote a very extensive 300-page national security assessment that was presented to the former government and also to this government, to Netanyahu when he was in opposition, saying war is imminent. We have only two choices. It's either going to be a six-day war scenario or a Yom Kippur scenario. And unfortunately, we chose a Yom Kippur scenario. Now we need to make sure that we build an idea of what is needed to secure Israel for generations to come that is really relevant, making sure that never again there will be terror armies on our borders, making sure that we are able to defend ourselves by ourselves and we produce our own munitions and capabilities, making sure we live along defensible borders. The land of Israel, you know, from the sea all the way to the Jordan Valley, only 45 miles. It's the width of a city.
No strategic depth.
Yeah, no depths. And so we really need to talk about these issues, and some of them are not going to be discussed by the defense establishment for a very simple reason. They view these discussions as political. So they don't discuss this, and this needs to be discussed. This is national security, this is not politics. Maybe it translated to policy afterwards, but this is our national security. And I see today our defense establishment distancing itself from these big discussions that have also political repercussions. And this is why you need organizations like Bitonistim, like IDSF, to really shape the narrative and have these discussions along with the other think tanks and educate not just decision makers, but also the general society and the young generation. And we operate along all these areas.
Well, thank you for changing and shaping the narrative so that these important discussions are being had. And hopefully we can secure Israel's border and ensure that another Yom Kippur war like we suffered is not going to be happening.
Yeah, definitely. I think every single Israeli and every Jew around the world, all of us are united in really the hope that will be secure for generations to come.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
For our next interview, I'm really excited to welcome Sarit Zehavi, founder and president of the Alma Research and Education Center. Sarit, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you and your colleagues at Alma do vast research on Hezbollah as a serious enemy along Israel's north. A lot of the time, as citizens of Israel, we just see the rockets. It's hard to see the people who are actually attacking us. What, in short, are the most vital things people need to know about Hezbollah?
that it's very easy to see the people who are attacking us. They're just across the border. And until October 6th, I saw them every day.
Right.
It was very clear that Hezbollah was prepared for an invasion with rockets arsenal. Actually, up until the ceasefire that is now ending, Hezbollah, during the IDF offensive, launched between 100 to 200 rockets every day to Israel's north. And IDF, in the very few kilometers it maneuvered in South Lebanon, pulled out tons of munition that was prepared for the Hezbollah invasion to Israel.
Right, so right now we're kind of at the very end stages of the ceasefire that was reached between Israel and Hezbollah. And there's kind of a lot of concern because of the different shifting variables in terms of the conditions for the ceasefire. Can you go into that a little bit, explain what the situation is right now?
Okay, it's actually, you have two separate questions here. What's the situation and what is the ceasefire? Okay, so let's start with what is the situation. And it's two different questions, okay? The situation for now, while we are recording this, is Hezbollah coming back in South Lebanon. Openly, publicly, with flags, with the posters of Nasrallah, crossing the barriers of the Lebanese armed forces, taking them off, if you like, physically taking them off. Frictions between those people and some IDF forces that were left in Lebanon. Most of the IDF forces had withdrawn from Lebanon, but those who stayed are trying to enforce ceasefire, meaning trying to prevent Hezbollah from coming back to the areas next to the border, and that's why we see frictions. This is a well-planned provocation of Hezbollah to call its people to go back to the towns and villages of South Lebanon, while IDF called the people not to come back yet.
Right.
So that's in overall the situation. But I want to say a few words about the arrangement itself that ended the war. And the arrangement itself said that within 60 days, IDF will withdraw from Lebanon, and the Lebanese armed forces will commence its implementation of disarming Hezbollah in those areas. It means, actually, that there is no deadline for the disarmament of Hezbollah in South Lebanon. There is only a deadline for the IDF withdrawal from South Lebanon.
Right.
And this is not a balanced agreement, and this agreement actually doesn't promise us
But ultimately, Israel signed this agreement, right? We entered this agreement. So what is the reason that Lebanon's army is not doing its side of the deal? Is it because it's incapable, or is it because it chooses not to an extent?
So the answer probably lies in between. And I think that many people wanted to believe that since there is a new leadership in the government of Lebanon, there is a new president, there is a new prime minister, maybe we'll see something different. It didn't happen. Throughout the years, the Lebanese army avoided from enforcing Resolution 1701 and the disarmament of Hezbollah south to the Litani River. They were, the whole policy of the Lebanese armed forces was that they want to avoid any friction with Hezbollah. The majority of the Muslim Shiite population of South Lebanon are supportive of Hezbollah. I can say the ultimate majority. And that's why the Lebanese armed forces wanted quiet, and they are willing to pay prices for this quietness. I think that the question at stake now is whether we're going to see at the zone tactical pressures on the Lebanese armed forces to behave differently. It's not happening yet, and it didn't happen during the current 60 days, not enough to bring any results. We didn't see the Lebanese armed forces even taking off munition. We only saw one picture. That's it. If you compare that to what the IDF had taken out of Lebanon, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I think that the bottom line is that we need to push harder to put more pressure on Lebanon, because Hezbollah today is very different than it used to be. Right. Hezbollah today needs the ceasefire. Hezbollah today is an organization that suffered a lot of damages. And now is the time to make sure that the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army are preventing its recovery.
Are you talking more about military pressure or diplomatic pressure? Because I think that something that a lot of Israelis are concerned about looking at this from kind of the outside is that we don't look too good right now, because what the world is seeing isn't the fact that Hezbollah is entering southern Lebanon again, isn't that the Lebanese army isn't effectively completing its side of the bargain. They're seeing Israel refusing to retreat out of enemy territory.
I agree. I know these pictures are very problematic with regard to Israel's PR, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I dedicated my life exactly to explain what's behind the picture, or to give the wider context to those kind of pictures that you see IDF and in front of it allegedly unarmed civilians. It's not actually the case. If you zoom out, you understand that in many buildings of South Lebanon, in many areas of South Lebanon, there is still munition of Hezbollah, because IDF didn't maneuver in all of the area. It actually maneuvered only in very small areas next to the borderline. And that's why we expect the Lebanese government to behave differently. How to do it with international pressure? There are many ways to do it. The key to it is the fact that we have now a new prime minister, and he needs to create a government. And the government cannot include Hezbollah anymore. This is something that it's a thorough term and condition to bring a change in Lebanon, that the new government of Lebanon will not include Hezbollah. Second is the flow of the money. How do we stop the flow of the money? Is this possible? I think it's possible. The banks of Hezbollah are still active and legal in Lebanon. This must be stopped. And third, it's the Iranian involvement. We must make sure that there is no Iranian involvement in Lebanon, and the Iranians are not sending neither money nor military assistance or civilian assistance to Hezbollah.
How do you think this entire situation, right, which is obviously felt much more along Israel's northern border than it is in Tel Aviv or Herzliya or something like that, how do you think it's impacting Israeli overall resilience in terms of both civilians but also the IDF forces that are still in Lebanon?
Look, I live 9 kilometers from the border with Lebanon.
So you can say firsthand.
So I can say firsthand that people in the north want to go back to their homes. People in the north want to rebuild the future of the north. We love the area and we demand security. It's it's very simple. I think, in Hebrew we say you cannot be half pregnant, okay? You cannot leave a little bit of forces in South Lebanon and then expect to a major change. You either withdraw completely and give the keys to the Lebanese armed forces, or you stay there massively and you continue to implement the resolution by yourself. But something in between, I don't see how this could work. You mentioned the difference between the north and Tel Aviv, and I must tell you something. The people of the north have 15 seconds to run for shelter. In Tel Aviv, you have, a minute and a half
to 2 minutes, yeah.
So it makes a huge difference with regard to driving on the main roads, getting to work, getting to school. These are all small communities. If you want to get to school, you need to drive on the main roads. Iron Dome is not active in most of the main roads in the north. We need to have normal life. Eventually, we need to create a situation that we have normal life. That's why it was important to have an agreement. And I knew from day one that it will end up with an agreement. I think now we have an opportunity, because of the weakness of Hezbollah, because of the new administration in Washington, to improve the terms and to put the pressure on Lebanon to implement the agreement. These terms didn't exist a few months ago. They exist now, and we can do it. We can do something better. And yet, we all should know, people of the north, that Hezbollah will not disappear completely. We didn't attack Hezbollah in Lebanon in a way that made it disappear completely. It would have been a much longer campaign if we tried to make Hezbollah disappear completely. And by the way, this was not one of the goals of this campaign.
Right.
So since Hezbollah didn't disappear completely and doesn't intend to disappear completely, actually the campaign didn't over. It just in a different way. The offensive was over, but the campaign was not over.
What do you see as the immediate challenges in the future once this kind of time period comes to end, and also maybe longer term as a result of the most recent violence?
So the main challenge is how do you make sure that Hezbollah doesn't recover? And the Israeli side of what I've just said is how do you enable the people to come back? because Israelis want to come back to live, but they want promises that Hezbollah will not recover. And the answer to this challenge is to create very clear red lines of Israel. If this happens, we're not going to enable that. If we see Hezbollah going in this direction, we are not going to enable that. I think this is what we are trying to do now. I'm not sure we are doing that with enough forces. I think we need more forces over there. And I think we can do that with a lot of pressure on the political level of Lebanon as well.
I see. And should residents of Israel's north already now, right? But you were talking about the need for better infrastructure, the need for better security. But already now, should Israel's northern residents be concerned about a reoccurrence?
No, I don't think that Hezbollah today has neither the intention, but most important, not the capability. And I think we should look at first at capability, because intention, I could be wrong, to reopen the war against Israel. I don't think it has the capability to invade with massive forces into the Israeli communities next to the border, as we saw in October 7th, 2023 in the south. I think this capability was dismantled. They still have rockets. They can still choose to have 100 rockets be launched at the Galilee. And that's why we have to be prepared with defense and offense at the same time to make sure that even if this happens, we know how to retaliate, we know how to respond, we can defend ourselves with regard to Iron Dome or shelters or whatever. The new Israeli security strategy must be very different from the previous one. The previous one was about containers, was about alert, was about deterrence. We should speak in different language today. And at the same time, we should bring the people back to their homes because, again, Hezbollah is not going to disappear completely and we shouldn't wait anymore. The capabilities don't exist. We should bring them back home and make sure that they don't rebuild those dangerous capabilities on the other side of the border.
But what about the families with children? They're kind of concerned about their children's safety.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that those who have children that are still going to school, we should wait until the end of the school year. It's okay. But at the same time, the government can give incitements to encourage the people who can, without uprooting the children from the school, to come back. And as I've said, at the same time, to make sure that they have the proper defense with everything that is going on inside Lebanon. At the same time, look, what Hezbollah wanted to show in everything that is happening now is that the residents of South Lebanon are coming back. They are resilient. You opened this interview with the question of resilience. We are also very resilient. We need to show, again, to the Lebanese that we are coming back, that we are not giving up on the north. And that's why I think it's important that eventually the messages should be sent is that people are coming back.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarit Zahavi, founder and president of Alma Research and Education Center, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, I'm pleased to welcome Professor Mirav Chen, Dean of the Social and Humanities Faculties at Tel Chai College. Mirav, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
We've been hearing a lot about Tel Chai in the news, and not just because it's switching from a college to a university, which it is, but because of the immense impact of the war on the north and on the college in particular. And how much of a community is that really?
Well, I think that over the past year, the Tel Chai community has faced extraordinary challenges. But, you know, like many Israelis around Israel and Jewish people around the world, but situated near Israel's northern border in Kiryat Shmona, or if you want to call it South Lebanon, our campus endured prolonged evacuation. I think it was about 60% of our students and staff that were displaced from their homes, while many others had to endure months under the constant threat of attacks and bombing and all that. We also had to immediately evacuate our research labs, all our different facilities in the college, and everything was shut down. I think that in response, we adapted quickly, transitioning to mostly remote learning, even though about 20% of our students were called up for reserve duty on various fronts. Maybe it's important to say that in times of peace, Tel Chai serves as a vital driver of growth and development in the Galil and Golan Heights. Our institution attracts thousands of young people from across the country who integrate into the fabric of life in the region and fuel its economy. These students, they rent apartments, they shop locally, explore the area, and really participate in its cultural life. I think that really beyond the economic impact, they play a critical role in the community.
Let's jump back to what I snuck in there before about the college becoming a university, which I'm sure will impact those same students immensely. First of all, congratulations. How is the change in the title going to impact the general function or image of this academic institution?
Well, I think that it's very important to say that it's not only a change in title, it's basically really a very, very big change because, like I said before, many of our students are embedded in the region's local welfare, education, all that, and we contribute a lot to the life in the North. So now we're thinking that moving into the university structure, or I would say really establishing the University of Kiryat Shmona in the Galilee will be a very, very big transformative initiative. In collaboration with the Council for Higher Education Steering Committee appointed by the Minister Yoav Kish, we're laying the groundwork for what we hope will be a world-class, maybe boutique institution that will serve as a catalyst for regional and national growth. That's what we hope. We believe that the university will be an academic institution uniquely positioned to focus on engaged teaching and research that leverages most of the region's strengths. Built on the foundation of Tel Chai College ecosystem we have cultivated over the years, we hope that the university will be pioneering model of interdisciplinary hubs driven by, as I said, engaged research that addresses practical challenges and opportunities at both the regional, the national, and of course the global scales.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say maybe it's important just to say that this vision is ensured, of course, in a profound connection to the local and the regional industries and different communities. We have a lot of different communities in this area, ensuring our academic efforts generate meaningful, tangible impacts.
So those same communities, though, since the war began, the North has been vastly evacuated, and that includes students as well. And now during the ceasefire, people are quite afraid to come back. What does a college without a college look like?
Well, I think that during the first stages of the war, we mostly studied remotely and did a lot of the lab work and research in different academic institutions around the country. In the 24-25 academic year, Tel Chai established alternative learning centers in Tel Aviv, Haifa, Carmiel, and other locations, ensuring that students can continue their education with in-person interactions alongside remote learning, because we saw that it's really so difficult to do everything from far away from remote. The Dean of Students' Office and faculty members came together to provide a comprehensive support system, offering really academic, financial, and emotional assistance to the students on reserve, to their parents, to evacuee students, and so on. But I think it's maybe also very, very important to say that that also the engagement of our students and staff members in the community did not falter even during the war. I would say that despite the immense challenges and extended evacuations, Tel Chai students and staff continued to contribute to numerous projects. We provided critical support to victims of October 7th events and to many evacuees, children, adults, and elderlies. I want to give two examples that maybe will show how much the infrastructure of Tel Chai and what we developed in Tel Chai really helped in these emergency times. For instance, we had many teams from our trauma and stress program in social work studies that provided psychological first aid based on trauma intervention models developed at Tel Chai by Dr. Moshe Farhi. It's called in English the 6 C's. And in addition, I don't know if some of the people heard about the staff member that helped the 2 children in the kibbutz down south when they were locked, when they were closed in the closet, and she talked with them. That was our staff member. In addition, many of our graduates worked in Mashabim therapy centers established by Professor Muli Lahad. So I think that it's important to say that Tel Chai's spirit is to engage in the community needs and do things that are for the goods of the area.
Right. I think that like a good example of that as well is just simply the fact that the student population is this precise age group, unfortunately, from which we see reservists going to serve on the front lines of the war. That's another just form of serving their community in a way. How do they cope with trying to keep up with their studies? And how do you as a college assist or provide solutions for that?
Well, in many cases, and thanks to many good people who contributed money and helped us, but we had teams in every department that contacted the reserve the students on reserve if they could be contacted, but we made a lot of effort. And we made sure that if they need any kind of support, if any kind of learning, if their families need any kind of support, we made sure that Tel Chai community is there to see them beyond, the learning or the learning needs, and to really support both their learning, but much more than that, their special needs that came about all the time. I can say that, let's say, my 2 sons that were on reserve during the war and were students really got a lot of support and attention. And I think that's what makes Tel Chai community so very special.
Professor Mirav Chen, Tel Chai College, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and I hope to see us all back in campus. Thank you.
And now I'm happy to host Lior Simcha, chairman of the kibbutz movement in Israel. Lior, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
שמענו בזמן האחרון על הפגיעות הנוראיות לערים בצפון, אבל מעט מכירים את המערכות הקיימות בקיבוצים כדי להבין את ההשפעה הייחודית ששם. מה אתה יכול לספר לנו על זה?
קיבוץ זה חיה מוזרה, זה חיה שיש לה גם עסק וגם קהילה, גם בית וגם פרנסה וגם מפעלים וגם חקלאות. רוב הקיבוצים יושבים על הגדר, ממש על הגדר, תפיסה ביטחונית, יישוב הארץ, גם בצפון וכמובן גם בדרום. התנועה הקיבוצית חטפה פגיעה מאוד מאוד קשה במלחמת חרבות ברזל, החל מ-7 באוקטובר. אגב, מבחינת פרופורציות, הפגיעה היא זהה כמעט, מבחינה פרופורציונלית, כמעט לכל מלחמות ישראל, שזה 20%. 20% מנפגעי מלחמת חרבות ברזל, אם זה הנופלים או הנרצחים, שייכים לתנועה הקיבוצית.
זה פרופורציונלי גם מבחינת האוכלוסייה הישראלית? זה
20%, 2% מהאוכלוסייה, התנועה הקיבוצית היא כולה 2% מהאוכלוסייה, שילמה מחיר של 20% מהפגיעה, וזה המחיר של לשבת בגבולות המדינה, זה המחיר של להיות תנועה מיישבת, זה המחיר של לשבת על הגבולות, זה המחיר של להיות השכפ"ץ של המדינה.
אהבתי, שכפ"ץ של המדינה. איך התנועה פועלת כדי למשוך צעירים במיוחד לקיבוצים?
אז הסיפור, אני חושב שהחדש ואולי הישן, ממש אתמול שלשום, הייתי בקיבוץ מנרה, חוגג 82 להיווסדו, 82 שנה. מנרה זה סמל, יושב על הצוק, על ראש ההר, ממש על גבול הלבנון, והייתי שם, והם שמחו ורקדו ושתו ואכלו.
שזה השוואה מטורפת למה שהיה.
הייתה שמחה גדולה עם רוח חדשה, ואני חושב שהדרך של למשוך את הצעירים למקומות האלה היא דווקא דרך הקהילות. הקהילות המדהימות עם אנשי הברזל שחיים על הגבול ממנרה לתל אביב, זה כמעט 3 שעות בנסיעה. ממש חיים שם על הקצה של הקצה, ועושים ביטחון, ועושים חקלאות, ומיישבים את הארץ, ומפרנסים אותה עם מפעלי תעשייה שהם באמת השפיץ של השפיץ בעולם, עם חדשנות טכנולוגית, עם חדשנות חקלאית, וזה מדהים לראות, והדרך שלנו למשוך את החבר'ה מתל אביב זה להגיד, זה הסיפור החדש של מדינת ישראל, ואם תרצי, זה אולי הסיפור הישן, כי בסוף תל חי, הסמל של תל חי, האריה השואג של תל חי, זה הסיפור של מנרה, זה הסיפור של כפר גלעדי, זה הסיפור של כל הקיבוצים בארץ, ואני חושב שבעשור האחרון, עד ל7 באוקטובר, קצת איבדנו את הסיפור הישראלי. ואנחנו רואים, קצת איבדנו את הלמה מדינת ישראל, למה התיישבות, למה תפיסת הביטחון היא תפיסה של הגבולות, וקצת הסתגלנו לפרבור, אם תרצה, האמריקאי, לריכוזי אוכלוסייה, ולא לתפיסת ביטחון, ואני חושב שעכשיו אנחנו נצטרך לחזור להתחלה, לתפיסת הביטחון, להתיישבות, שלשמה קמה מדינת ישראל. והלמה הזה בעיניי הוא מאוד מאוד חשוב.
חשוב אבל בכל זאת לזכור, כאילו אתה נגיד נותן את הדוגמה של מנרה, שיש שם חגיגה ומסיבה ותחושת קהילה, אבל עובדה שהרבה מאוד מהתושבים של מנרה היו צריכים לבוא מהמרכז, כי הם פונו, וחלק גדול מהם עדיין לא חזרו, הם עדיין לא מרגישים לגמרי בטוחים בצפון, במיקום של הרבה מאוד מהקיבוצים האלה ברמת הגולן, נגיד. אז
דווקא לא. דווקא אני חושב שרוב הקיבוצים, בסדר, מנרה זה קיבוץ שצה"ל כפה עליו להתפנות. אם היו שואלים את מנרה, הם לא היו מתפנים. הם היו ממש חייבים להתפנות. כל תפיסת הביטחון בעיניי תפיסה מוטעית, שפינינו יישובים כדי לתת לצה"ל לייצר לחימה בתוך שטח ישראל. הסיפור היה צריך להיות הפוך. הסיפור היה צריך להיות שאנחנו לא מפנים יישובים, הלחימה היא תמיד בשטח האויב ולא בשטח שלנו, ואני חושב שדווקא הקיבוצים, בטח כיתות הכוננות, ואנחנו ראינו איזה מחיר ענק הם שילמו, כיתות הכוננות, מי שהחזיק את מנרה בשנה וקצת האחרונות, זה כיתת הכוננות שזה בני המשק, בני המקום, שלבשו מדים והחזיקו את כיתות הכוננות לאורך כל הצירים, זה מנרה, זה ססה, זה ברם, זה אדמית, זה חניתה, זה ראש הנקרה, ממש עמדו והחזיקו את הגבולות, הסתכלו פנים אל פנים מול אויבי החיזבאללה, ונלחמו ממש על הבית. ובעיניי החבר'ה האלה הם דור המייסדים החדש, ואותם אנחנו חייבים לחזק ולטפח בקיבוץ סופה, על גבול רצועת עזה, חודש לפני 7 באוקטובר 2023, החליטו לקחת את הנשקים, כי זה מסוכן מדי, כי לא טוב נשקים ביישוב, כי יכולים לגנוב את הנשקים, והגענו ל7 באוקטובר בלי נשקים בקיבוץ סופה. אנשים נלחמו ממש עם מקלות אל מול מחבלי הנוח'בה. וזה מצב שאוי ואבוי אם נחזור, ואוי ואבוי אם לא נלמד את הלקחים.
נכון, אבל מאוד מאוד קשה לשמור על הערכים האלה. איך התנועה הקיבוצית, נגיד, שומרת על הערכים האלה במציאות הנוכחית?
אז אני חושב שדווקא לא קל לשמור על הערכים האלה אם אתה מאמין במשהו. אם אתה מאמין בחקלאות ומאמין בתעשייה, ומאמין במדינה, ומאמין בכל ליבך בדבר הזה שנקרא קהילה שיתופית, קהילה שוויונית, קהילה שמטפחת על עצמה, קהילה שאגב חיה בזכות עצמה. מדינת ישראל, התנועה הקיבוצית, הקיבוצים משלמים המון המון מיסים למדינה. איפה? במנרה, לא פה ברוטשילד בתל אביב. במנרה עושים תעשייה לתפארת. חזית הטכנולוגיה בססה, חזית הטכנולוגיה בברעם, בקיבוץ שמיר. ממש זה אדיר. והאנשים האלה, כדי לעשות את המעשה הציוני, הם חייבים להאמין. ואנחנו מאמינים בכל ליבנו בתפיסת הביטחון, בתפיסת הגדרות, בזה שהקיבוצים נמצאים שם כדי להגן על המדינה, בתעשייה ישראלית, בחקלאות, בהתיישבות, בעבודת האדמה, וגם בשותפות. ואם אתה מאמין, אז זה לא קשה לך.
אבל מעבר לאמונה, מבחינת העשייה, איזה שינויים או עדכונים אתה מצפה לראות בצפון בעקבות הפגיעות מהמלחמה?
אז אני מצפה שדבר ראשון, המדינה תכיר בתפיסה. תכיר בזה שהקיבוצים שיושבים על הגדר צריך לעזור להם, ובטח לא להפריע להם. צריך להכיר בתפיסת החקלאות, ולטפח את החקלאות הישראלית, ובטח לא להוריד מכסים. אני מזכיר לכם, שנה לפני ה7 באוקטובר, הייתה רפורמה בחקלאות, רפורמה שהיא נוראית בכדי לעזור ליבוא מטורקיה, שזה משהו שהוא בעיניי בלתי נתפס. מחירי המים הם מחירים כמעט הכי יקרים ב-OECD. אז אנחנו צריכים לעזור, ובטח לא להפריע, ואני מצפה מהמדינה שהיא תכיר בתפיסה הזאת, שהיא תחזק את היישובים, היא לא תחליש אותם, או לכל הפחות לא תפגע בהם.
זה אכן קשה להבין, כי הרי טורקיה היא לא בדיוק הידידה הכי קרובה שלנו היום, אבל נגיד, אם אנחנו מסתכלים קצת יותר לרחוק, מעבר לפוליסה, קצת יותר ראייה רוחבית, מהן התוכניות הארוכות טווח של התנועה הקיבוצית לשיקום וחיזוק הקיבוצים בצפון, גם מבחינת תשתיות, אבל גם מבחינת חוסן קהילתי?
אז יש לנו את התוכנית של היום שאחרי, ובאמת, כמו שאמרת, התוכנית של היום שאחרי היא לאו דווקא בתוכנית של השיפוץ, גם השיפוץ, גם בניית התשתיות, גם בניית הקיבוץ, אבל אני חושב שהמורכב, הרבה יותר מורכב, זה לשקם את הנפש, לשקם את הקהילות, לשקם את המשפחות, להבין ששם אנחנו נצטרך להשקיע הרבה מאוד אנרגיה. בשיפוץ מבנים, זה הורסים מבנה ובונים חדש, אנחנו יודעים לעשות את זה, אנחנו עושים את זה. לבנות קהילה, לבנות אמון. אנשים ב7 באוקטובר נחטפו מביתם, מהממד שלהם. הם היו יותר מ-24 שעות צפונים בממד. יש שני ערכים בסיסיים שהנפש של האדם, כדי להיות יציבה, חייבת להיות שני ערכים בסיסיים שחייבים להכיר בהם. הדבר הראשון זה שהבן אדם שבא מולך רוצה לא להרע לך, לעשות איתך טוב. והדבר השני, שתהיה במצוקה, ויקרה לך משהו רע, אז יבואו לעזור לך. את שני הערכים האלה, הם התרסקו לנו בפנים ב7 באוקטובר. אנחנו ראינו רוע צרוף של מחבלי הנוח'בה, מגיעים לקיבוצים ועושים שם שמות, וזה אנשי שלום. צריך להבין שמי שגר בבארי, ומי שגר בניר עוז, זה אנשי שלום, אנשים שבזמנם החופשי, היו מוציאים חולי סרטן מרצועת עזה, שידם לא מספקת, ולוקחים אותם באופן אישי בהתנדבות לתל השומר לקבל טיפולים. וזה שהצבא לא בא להציל אותם. זה שהם נמצאים 24 שעות, 36 שעות, בתוך הממד, והם קוראים ומתחננים לעזרה במדינת ישראל של 2024, או סליחה, 2023 דאז, זה לא אמור לקרות. אנחנו חייבים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו. אנחנו חייבים לשמור על גבולות המדינה. וזה לא אמור לקרות, ולכן מה שנדרש לשקם זה בראש ובראשונה את האמון. שאם יקרה לנו משהו רע, יבואו להציל אותנו, ושאנשים שעומדים מולנו, הם לא רוצים ברעתנו.
ליאור שמחה, מזכ"ל התנועה הקיבוצית, תודה רבה שהצטרפת אלינו היום.
תודה לך, תמר, ותודה לצופים.
For our next interviewee, I'm pleased to welcome Efrat Stern, Director of Joint Israel Unlimited and Mental Health and Resilience. Efrat, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
So we all hear about the mental health impact of the citizens of Israel South who were directly targeted in their own homes, as well as, of course, the hostages. But what is the collective mental health impact of the war on Israel's general society?
So first of all, I want to separate between mental health and mental well-being. When we're talking about mental health, we're talking about people with mental health disabilities. And we're talking here about mental well-being and resilience. And I'll demonstrate what I mean. A few weeks ago, I entered a room full of professionals from the mental health field, and I asked them if I can ask them a few questions. So they, of course, said it's okay. And I asked them, just few questions. Please, whoever here and cannot sleep a whole night, please raise your hand. So some of people raised their hand. And then I asked them who gained or lost a lot of weight in the last year. So some of them raised their hand. Who has, children in the army or with mental health needs? And some of them raised their hand. After 5 questions, everyone there raised their hand. And there are people that are functioning, they're going to work, they have families, everything is okay. But if they all raise their hand, it means that when we're talking about the mental well-being situation in Israel, it's about every one of us. It's about me, it's about my family, it's about my society. And it's a really broad thing here in Israel. We never had this kind of thing, such a long war, such a mental needs for a very, very long time. And I can give you a little bit statistics. We're talking about 55% of the children that in every minute they feel stress. It means that when you are entering a classroom, 55% of the people there, of the children, they cannot learn how to read or write because they're very, very troubled with other things. 42% of the people in Israel, of the adults, cannot sleep a whole night. 40% of the parents feel anxiety. So it's really every one of us. And maybe another very, very...
Because also the statistics in general worldwide have shown that stress levels are up worldwide. That's not even specifically in a country, ravaged by war. So that's on top of what's already existing as a steep climb.
You're very right. And I have to say that in Israel, we started to look very deeply at this subject during the COVID pandemic, because we understood that the mental health pandemic will be the next one. But then we still talked about mental health. Now we're talking about mental well-being. It's every one of us. And one very important thing that I also want to add is that 65% of the Israeli population that feel anxiety or stress or even severe stress, they do not recognize themselves as people that need help because they never reached out for help on these subjects. So it means that our responsibility as a society and as professionals are to reach out for people and offer them help, because otherwise the consequences will be very, very hard for everyone. For our society and from each of us.
Absolutely. So what kind of resources, if we're getting into the nitty-gritty of things, were not available before October 7th, but have been made available by the Joint now, and which are still, in the works in the process?
So, before October 7, the mental health system in Israel was very, very poor or needed resources. There were good professionals, but it still needed resources. And when I'm talking even after October 7, 80% of the budget of the Israeli government budget is going to clinical solutions, but which of course is very, very important. And there are people that need clinical solutions, but most of the population do not need clinical solutions. I can enjoy also solutions, interventions in the community, tech solutions, group solutions. There are all kinds of interventions that we can use. And when we went to the world to see what kinds of solutions are there, so there was solutions from all the solutions which I just mentioned. When the war started, we understood that there a lot of people that need clinical solutions that were in the Gaza envelope in October 7, but there are about 9 million other people in Israel that need also solutions, but different ones. So I can give you examples of solutions that we understand that they can be scaled up really quickly, and they're very good, like tech solutions. We started to work with the platform of Kai, which is like a person on your phone, and it can ask you proactively, did you meet a friend today? Did you went to a walk today? And if the platform can see that you have some kind of stress, so a professional can reach out to you and offer you help. We're working with Kai in the Ben Gurion University, in Reichman University. We're also starting to work in Maccabi and in the education system, and we see very, very good results. So this is one example. I can also tell you about another intervention or program that we work in different municipalities in Israel. We're developing it with the Tel Aviv-Yafo College. And we understand that there are a lot of people that meet people every day due to their work, due to their jobs, like community police officers, like people that work in the National Insurance Institute. And we train them to understand what does it mean to feel stress, how they can recognize stress in themselves, and what kind of help they can offer people with the stress and where they can go. We're also working with a tech platform. The name is Dugri, which is creating communities, peer-to-peer communities. So we are working with soldiers on the Amit platform, and a lot of soldiers do use it and feel very comfortable in having some conversation with people that have the same experience as they have.
That's so interesting, and including something from Israel's thriving, high-tech sector into something that's also creating real-time, almost med tech solutions is so innovative and such a great way of approaching things. We know that the entire state of Israel is experiencing what you said, like a kind of mental well-being issue or psychological trauma, even at different intensities. Are there unique characteristics to residents of the North in particular, and are you working to address these characteristics in particular?
So I think that it is very important to understand, as I said before, that we're talking about the whole population of Israel. But when we're talking about the North, there are specific criteria, or not criteria, specific things that I can say about this population. I think that people that were a lot of weeks out from their homes, there are a lot of people they want to go back to their homes, but they're not, not all the schools are working, not all the workplaces are working, not all the things that can give services for people are working. And also a lot of people are very afraid to go back to the North, not just because of the bombs, but which we don't have now, but also because the feeling of personal security is very, very low. So I think that when I'm talking about the whole population of Israel in the North, it is even worse. So when I say this, I think that a lot of our interventions, we will bring more of it to the North. Like when I talked about of training people that work with people or see people. So we will enter a lot of other communities in the North. We will develop communities peer-to-peer for people in the North by their special things or needs that they have. We want to start to work with the municipalities. We understand that the municipalities are the best ones that know the people that live there and understand their needs. So we're starting a few programs with the municipalities to help them to build their capacity and to bring all kinds of solutions for the citizens that live there.
It's so important, and I just want to say also, I want to take this opportunity to any of our listeners who are encountering even like the littlest bit of like well-being drop. Like these are the resources that are out there for you, and recognize that, and there's no shame in asking for help. And I think resources like the kind provided by the Joint are just phenomenal and something that need to be utilized there for you. That's my little message out for there. But I do want to go back for one more question. What are the biggest obstacles that the Joint is facing in order to provide citizens of Israel's North, as well as all of Israel? Because like we said, it's all encompassing with the resources needed. How are you tackling these different challenges?
So when, after October 7, it was very, very obvious that the population need a lot of interventions, a lot of solutions that will fit every one of us. But this is not enough. We can have a lot of things that we can offer the population, but not all of us knows what is out there, how we can be sure that there are quality enough solutions, that they are very good for us. And we know that in the mental health field, if you use an intervention that is not good enough, it can harm you. So this is the first obstacle. I'm talking about from a research that has been done in England, only 30% of the interventions were quality enough for solutions in the mental health field. So we are working on a seal of quality, and we want to implement it in the field and in the government to be sure that all of the solutions that we offer are good enough, and not that just the solutions that we offer, but the solutions in the field are quality enough. Also, I think that it is very important to find a way that people can know what solutions are there and be sure that they're good. So we developed a tech platform. The name is Nafshi. You can enter it. It's nafshi.info. And there are over 400 interventions there that are all vetted. We know that they're all good. And it is very, very personalized. You can go in there. I can say, I live in the Sharon, I'm 49, and I want interventions on how to talk to my children about the war. So it will give me only the specific interventions that are good for me. So this is a very unique platform. We had almost 200,000 people that used this platform until now.
Wow.
Yeah. I also think that we need more data to be gathered so we can have decision makers have decisions or make decisions and understand which interventions they should make, where they should make which interventions on each issues, and how much money they need to invest in such interventions. And maybe
I hope that data asks the correct questions. We've seen issues in the past where the data that's coming from statistical analyses is somewhat lacking in the questions that we really need to face.
I agree. And I think that this is the reason that one thing that we're also doing is trying to have a communal conversation with all the stakeholders, and there's a lot of stakeholders in the field, and to discuss together what are the main measures, how we can measure best resilience. What is resilience? What is mental well-being? So we can have like a one way for all of us to understand where we're going so we can make a good impact. And maybe that brings me to another thing, a very important thing, that I think that the place that the Joint is in between the government and the citizens and third organizations, society organizations, civil organizations, it's a point when we can hear all the voices around the table. So we can bring all of them together and we can make change while all of us sit together in the same room, and to create the continuum of services, the continuum of the subjects that we should address.
Absolutely, with the unique perspective that you provide. That's the Director of Joint Israel Unlimited and Mental Health and Resilience. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our next guest, Sigal Barzilai, CEO of the Ayalim Association, will highlight the efforts to strengthen community development and social resilience across the country. Sigal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
So tell me a little bit, how has the Ayalim Association and its members been impacted by the recent war, particularly in the north where one of your students' villages was evacuated?
Of course, the association was impacted very immediately after the war began. We have student villages in Sderot, in Ofakim, in Yachini, and in the north. Actually, in Sderot, there was a student that was in the middle of the battles when there were missiles there, and missiles hit our village there.
Wow.
Yeah. In the north, the village in Kiryat Shmona, which is very, very significant there.
Which is it's connected to Tel Chai College?
Yeah, of course. Of course, it's connected to Tel Chai, and we established a very firm community there. And it was evacuated on the beginning of October. And the students there wanted to evacuate with the residents and keep doing their scholarship with the residents. In Carmiel, for example, even though they were not evacuated, or in Akko, it was all the last year not a normal routine, because
right. How can it be?
Because first of all, in all our villages all over the country, the young men and women were recruited for reservice. So it was hard to function as a student village when some of the places were half full, okay? In Lod, for example,
they have a massive students' village.
Yes, yes, and there were only, in some point, there were only women in the village. So, and you need to remember that in the beginning of October there were chaos, and no one knew what is going to happen, and everyone was afraid. So it was hard for us and for our students.
But why specifically focus on areas like the Negev and the Galilee?
Of course, our long-term goal is for young people to see the Negev and the Galil as a residential option. 80% of Israel territory is in the Negev and the Galil, and only 20% of its residents lives there. So it's critical to bring young people to those areas. Right. That's why. That's our goal. That's our task, and that's what we are doing all the time.
Make it a home for somebody.
Yes. Of course, make it a home and give them as many as option as possible. Give them not just place to live there, but a community, and also for pleasure and fun, and make them fall in love in these areas that they will decide to stay there. That's our goal.
So for those who don't know the Ayalim Association as much, so you guys create these student villages. Can you explain a little bit about the background for it and about the other activities that you guys do?
Yeah. Ayalim was founded 23 years ago by two dreamers that took two caravan and settled in Ashalim in the Negev. And now we have 15 student villages from Kiryat Shmona to Eilat, and over 1,000 students. And we are proud to be in this position at this time, because we can do things for the state of Israel, and that's the whole purpose and task that we are doing. And we have like a service here, 70 young people doing a gap year before the army, and contributing to Israel also.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This service year is now in Kfar Aza, and all they're doing is renovating and maintaining the gardens there, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as a former resident of a student's village myself, I have to say it's great what you do. So let's look now at the more recent events. Obviously, this is impacting the gap year program significantly, as the program revolves around helping communities in need, and communities in need were effectively created on October 7th more than they already were. What challenges did Ayalim face in supporting its young members during the conflict, and how were these addressed? How did you go about addressing them?
From the first moment that the war began, we knew that we will be anywhere and anytime that the state of Israel and the people of Israel will be in need of us. About the gap year, we have, last year it was like a record, over 1,000 young men and women asked to be in the gap year of Ayalim. This year, we have 2,000 young people that want, only 70 or 80 will be in the program, but it's wonderful to see the values of these people, that they want to give, they want to be in the worst point that Israel faced ever. So we're glad to lead this thing. About the students, we are establishing in Kiryat Shmona now the village again. In Sderot, for example, it was for a period of time that we couldn't operate the student village there. So there were no students, and once we could operate it again, we did it with a great force and energy, and now it's full, and there is like a list of people that wants to be in the village. So that's what we're doing for them.
That's so good, because for a lot of people, especially those living in those peripheral areas that were evacuated surrounding the war, it's so hard to consider even coming back. So to give them some kind of sense of security and balance, and
of course,
yeah, it's a great challenge, and it's a great gift to give them ultimately. What are the longer term goals for Ayalim in creating stronger communities in the north and in the Negev? And how do initiatives like settlement units and cultural spaces support these objectives?
Ayalim is all about to give those young people a chance to consider living in the places in which we have villages there. So that's our goal. That was our goal from the beginning, and we are continue to do it. There are places that needs now more attention, like the north, because we believe that we need to bring now the young people there, because they were evacuated over a year, and there's a lot of young people that doesn't want to come back there.
Right.
So it needs to be now, not next year, now. So we are doing everything we can to open the village in February or the beginning of March, that the city of Kiryat Shmona will get the help of our students in their scholarship there, and it's a say. It's something that the residents needs to see, that the states needs to see, that the world needs to see, that life is going on.
Right.
A part of it, we are establishing in almost each village that we have, like a cultural center that gives shows. That's how we give shows to the periphery. We, for example, we established Chalutz 33 in Be'er Sheva, which is the best club in Be'er Sheva, and it's a non-profit club. We don't make profits from it, but it's important to us to say to the people of Be'er Sheva, to the people of Sderot, to the people of Ofakim, that they can have what people in Tel Aviv can have.
And what they had before this awful tragedy happened to them, right?
Yeah, of course. And it's important. It's important, and we are there. We opened 3 clubs since October in Sderot, Ofakim, and Yachini. All of them places which were harmed badly in the October 7th.
It's awful and it's challenging, and it's also a beautiful thing to bring to them because Israelis are so culturally motivated. You know, we're kind of obsessed with ourselves and our own culture, and that's a good thing. With fears about returning to the north, though, what steps is Hayalim taking to encourage students and young people in general to return and rebuild their communities?
We are opening a group of 35 young people in Kiryat Shmona, students. The students, they study remotely now. So it doesn't matter if they're living in Tel Aviv or in Eilat or in Kiryat Shmona. So we're giving a much bigger scholarship and giving them the free of rent so that they'll come back to Kiryat Shmona.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish we could bring hundreds of students, but for the beginning, we're bringing 35 students, and it's important. It's important to show the world and show the people of Kiryat Shmona some hope, something good is happening, and not just. And
also, it functions as basic motivation because the very foundational price of rent is such a high thing that when it's suddenly something that you don't need to think about anymore, it frees up everything else. It's a big thing that you're doing. And given the limited governmental support Hayalim receives, because it really is very limited, how important is philanthropy to achieving your mission, and what role can donors play in ultimately helping secure the futures of these communities?
Of course, we have government support, but without philanthropy, we couldn't have done a lot of the things we are doing. For example, in Hanukkah, we took 70 of our gap year fellows and went to Kiryat Shmona and renovated the welfare office there, a two-floor building from scratch.
Wow.
We couldn't do it if we didn't have support of wonderful people around the world and in Israel. Kibbutz Kerem Shalom was evacuated. We took them to Ashalim in the Negev. In no time, we established a place that was for students. We moved it to be a place to families. They are there till today. Only philanthropy helps us do it. We couldn't have done it any other way.
Amazing. Well, that sounds like an incredible mission for both Hayalim to take on and also for philanthropists to contribute to. Sigal Barzilai, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Now we'll turn to Dr. Noam Yehudai, Director of Baruch Padem Medical Center, as it's known here, Poria, to discuss how advancements in regional healthcare are ensuring those communities thrive with better access to medical care. Dr. Yehudai, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
What types of challenges have you encountered since the war broke out when it comes to working in the medical field up north?
Well, the last year have brought a few challenges to those who are responsible for delivering medical care in the north of Israel. At the beginning, there was a challenge of taking care of tens of thousands of citizens who were evacuated from their homes. Many of them actually arrived to hotels surrounding Tzafon Medical Center, and we were obligated to deliver medical care for them since they were here several months, even though some of them are still here, relying on us as their regional medical center. Since September, where the northern frontier became active, we actually were facing a different challenge, and this is the challenge of continuing delivering medical care under fire. which is a situation which we are not used to. And for the first time in the history of our medical center, we had to go underground, and many of our departments were located underground for several weeks. We had the opportunity to continue with regular care, since we, in regular times, have sheltered area in our hospital with significant services like emergency room, intensive care unit, dialysis unit, and others who are sheltered in regular times. So we were able to continue with the regular care. But this is a technical challenge. I think that the main challenge was actually with the staff. Many of them arrived from areas or under direct fire, yet had to continue and had the obligation and commitment to continue to arrive to the hospital, even under fire, even if they had to park their car to the side of the road when the alarm, when they heard the alarm, and continue to the hospital with the mission of, as I said, to deliver continued medical care to the northern region.
It's not something that most people can imagine handling. It's a complete change of general routine. Tell me, what kinds of solutions has the hospital implemented to respond to the war, and also to enter the stage of rehabilitation that the North is slowly moving into?
Well, I strongly believe that the rehabilitation of the North has to do a lot with healthcare. And a lot of the sense of security that the civilians of the northern Israel feel and need to feel in order to come back depends on the stability and the quality of medical services that they can get here in the north. And since October 7th, we've actually accelerated some of the processes inside the hospital regarding services that were previously unavailable to the citizens of the North. Two of them are probably the main issues that are in the focus of the national healthcare system in Israel, which is physical rehabilitation and mental rehabilitation. Both of them are services that are lacking in the north of Israel, but luckily for us, we have begun planning them prior to the war and prior to October 7th. So nowadays, we are able to provide rehabilitation services in our newly opened Helmsley Rehabilitation Center, which was opened a couple of months ago, delivering all sorts of rehabilitation, from pediatric to soldiers, to adults, to geriatric rehabilitation, services that are lacking in the north. And when I'm talking about the north, some of them were not available until we opened them. The nearest services were located in Ra'anana, or in the center of Israel. So rehabilitation is one thing, and mental health, which is, I believe, even has an even higher demand in recent months and in the upcoming years, is something that we are already in the process of developing. And we're actually doing that also inside the rehabilitation center with a resilience center. And we are building a mental health center on campus, which will actually complete a 360 approach to the patient with general hospital, a rehab center, and a mental health facility, combining together a holistic approach to the patient and to the citizens of the North who deserve it.
It's a completely well-rounded approach to what kind of medical needs have arisen in times of the war, especially we were saying about the mental health ward, which is so necessary. People don't really necessarily take into account how big the impact of trauma and mental health impact is on a war like this. And, the trauma from the situation in the North has got to be devastating for its residents. I want to mention just on what you mentioned earlier that some of the services until now, people from the north had to go all the way down to as far as Ra'anana. For those outside of the country who don't necessarily know, that means 3, even 4-hour drives sometimes for some levels of care. So kind of preventing that is truly incredible. How has the hospital addressed the issue of lack of resilience and devastation altogether in northern residents within, let's say, this mental health facility?
So, as you said, the issue of mental health and mental rehabilitation is probably the main issue that will stay with us in the following years, and this is why we have focused our efforts on accelerating the developing and building of the mental health facility. It's not only the job of a hospital, of course. The community has a major role in mental health and in resilience in general, and we're combining hands with the community and with the government, and together with other mental health facilities, we are planning and building the best possible solution for the citizens of the North. I believe that the main challenge yet to come is something that we actually saw and are still dealing with in terms of physical rehabilitation is the manpower. We are lacking in Israel healthcare professionals, both in rehabilitation, both in mental health, and the shortage is nationwide, but it's much more intense in the northern periphery, and this is why we, as a medical center, joined hand with the Ministry of Health, and we actually promoted a joint venture whose main mission is to help healthcare professionals to relocate to the north of Israel as part of the rehabilitation of the north, and to come here and provide the services and the care that the citizens of the north deserve. It's a joint venture with philanthropy, with the Ministry of Health. It's called Talent Tech, and it actually provides, again, a round approach to those who seek and want to come to the north. We provide them with solutions for the spouses in terms of occupation, with professional advice. We provide them with housing solutions, of education for their children, and we promote positive immigration to the north of Israel of healthcare professionals to support those who will return, those who will join the new north the day after the war.
It feels like alongside this entire situation, the hospital is sort of a lone medical hero standing firm in the northern part of Israel. What kind of challenges come alongside that?
I wouldn't say a lone hero, because we are actually a part of a nationwide healthcare system, a strong healthcare system. But you can say that the distribution of resources is not equal, and the North deserves much a bigger part of the national resources. And it's not only governmental resources. I have to say that it is a challenge in the periphery to attract philanthropy, to attract those who usually go to the center of Israel, to the big medical centers in Israel, and provide them with the support that they need. We need this support in the north of Israel, especially in these times. And this is something that will help us to join hands with the community, with the fellow medical centers in the north, and to provide the services that the people of the north, not only in the east, also in the west, western part of the north of Israel, we all deserve a better access and better resources to the north. I mentioned it before. The health care and the strength of the healthcare system has to do a lot with those who will return and those who will want to relocate themselves to the north of Israel the day after and make the north not the way it was before, but a lot stronger, because this is what the north deserves. This is what the north needs.
Dr. Noam Yodai from Baruch Padeh Medical Center, Poria, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of Israel's North Looking Forward. Today, we've heard incredible stories of resilience and determination from those working tirelessly to rebuild and reimagine the future of Israel's northern communities. These aren't just plans or policies. They're the hopes and dreams of families, farmers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who call this region home. Let's take what we've learned today as a reminder of the strength of our people and the beauty of coming together to support one another. On behalf of all of us at the Jerusalem Post, thank you for being part of this journey, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Stay connected with the Jerusalem Post for ongoing coverage and updates. And until next time, thank you and take care.